Chapter 5407. The world was spinning. Lin Feng knew. They had been swallowed into the body of the unknown existence. How tragic! Would they be digested by the unknown existence and turned into its own nutrients? If that was the case, they really wanted to cry but had no tears. The current situation was indeed extremely dangerous for Lin Feng and the others. The unknown existence actually dared to swallow Lin Feng and the others. This meant that the fellow was confident in digesting Lin Feng and the others, but there was endless darkness in front of them. They wanted to get out. They didn't know where to get out. Not long after, the ancient ship was suspended above a lake. That lake was a green lake. It emitted a foul smell. Some liquid dripped down from it. The dripping liquid immediately emitted a burning sound. The deck of the ship was corroded, leaving holes one after another. It's digestive fluid. We're in its stomach. Tao Tai said with a gloomy expression. Damn, this fellow's stomach is so big. Lin Feng couldn't help but wail. He looked in all directions and couldn't see the end. This unknown existence's stomach was really too big. It's really disgusting. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. At this point, they were still thinking about whether it was disgusting or not. What they should be thinking about now was whether they could get out of here alive. The current situation was really too dangerous for Lin Feng and the others. At present, Lin Feng couldn't think of a way to leave this place. Tao Tai, how do you think we should leave? Find the walls of that fellow's stomach and then tear apart its body. Is this realistic? Lin Feng asked. Of course not. Tao Tai shook its head. It said, the stomach of this existence is like a huge world. You can't find the end at all. And by the time you look for it, the digestive fluid here will have already dissolved you. Tao Tai was also good at swallowing. Therefore, in this aspect, Tao Tai actually had a lot of right to speak. Since Tao Tai said so, Lin Feng naturally didn't think that Tao Tai was joking. Tao Tai said so. It should all be real. Since they couldn't find the other party's stomach wall, there was no need to talk about breaking the other party's stomach wall. This was something that was absolutely impossible. This was really bad. The feeling of slowly waiting for death. It was really unbearable. I don't want to die, Xianyuan Ruhan cried out in alarm. This little girl seemed to be a little slow in sensing danger. This was because when she was being devoured, the first thing she thought of was not her own safety. Instead, it was the surrounding environment. Was it disgusting? Until now. Only then did he realize that he might die here. Crack, crack. At this time, Lin Feng heard the sound of the hull being dismembered. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched violently. It seemed like the ancient ship couldn't withstand the melting of the digestive fluid. Wasn't this digestive fluid a little too terrifying? If the ancient ship is damaged, it will be even more troublesome. We won't have a place to stay. Do you have a new ancient ship? Lin Feng asked Xianyuan Ruhan. After all, the ancient ship had been damaged by that unknown and terrifying creature, so it wasn't surprising that it couldn't withstand the digestive fluid for a long time. But if it was a complete ancient ship, it might have been able to last longer. Xianyuan Ruhan looked like she was about to cry. No, I only have 2 ancient ships. The previous one was damaged, so this is the only one left. Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. The ancient ship was dismembered more and more. Before long, the ancient ship was completely dismembered. Of course, Lin Feng and the others didn't fall into the digestive fluid. After all, they could still fly. However, the digestive fluid kept dripping down from above. They had to be on guard against the fluid dripping down from above. They couldn't afford to let it fall on their bodies, or it would be very dangerous. Lin Feng and the others flew above the lake formed by the digestive fluid. They used their magic power barriers to block the digestive fluid that they couldn't avoid. Sometimes the fluid would drip on the barriers. The barriers were instantly corroded. Damn it, I've been hunting geese all day, but now I've been pecked blind. Tautai said gloomily. Usually it was Tautai who devoured others, but now it was being devoured. Tautai was naturally very gloomy. Lin Feng and the others flew for a long time. Their magic power was being consumed very quickly in this place. Although they had immortal stones to replenish their magic power, the speed of replenishment was obviously not proportional to the speed of consumption. As their magic power continued to be consumed, Lin Feng and the others' mood became heavier and heavier. They still couldn't find a way to escape. Moreover, that unknown existence seemed to know that Lin Feng and the others weren't dead yet. So, in the stomach world of that terrifying existence, there would be waves or torrential rain from time to time. Those weren't real waves, but waves formed by the digestive fluid. That wasn't real rain either. It was a torrential rain formed by the digestive fluid. The lethality was too great. Lin Feng had already lost more than a dozen defensive immortal tools. If this continued, they would definitely die here. I don't want to die. Hurry up and save me. Xianyuan Ruhan shouted. Don't shout. Even if you shout, no one will come. Lin Feng said, that's not necessarily true. Maybe my father and I have a telepathic connection, and he'll hear my cries and come save me? Xianyuan Ruhan said. It had to be said that this girl really knew how to comfort herself. In a difficult and vile environment, this kind of self-comfort. It was actually very important. After about a day, Lin Feng and the others couldn't hold on any longer. I didn't think that the peerless Xianyuan Ruhan would die here. My life has only just begun. How did it end up like this? How can I be so unlucky? I actually ran into such a terrifying existence. I curse that guy to die a horrible death. If I have the chance, I'll definitely kill him. Xianyuan Ruhan muttered all sorts of curses to herself. But she still had to face what she had to face. Just as Lin Feng and the others couldn't hold on any longer, suddenly Lin Feng felt a violent ripple coming from the depths. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Did you feel it? Lin Feng asked the Tautai and Xianyuan Ruhan. I felt it, but I don't know what's going on. Let's go take a look. The Tautai said. Lin Feng nodded. The three of them didn't stop. They quickly flew towards the source of the ripple. After flying for about an hour, they finally saw what the thing that was emitting such violent fluctuations was. So go read. Chapter 5408. It was the Buddha's head of an ancient Buddha. Of course, it wasn't a real Buddha's head. It was the Buddha's head of a statue. The Buddha's head had been severely corroded. It was full of bumps and holes, and who knew how many holes there were. But even so, the Buddha's head was still surrounded by Buddha's light, and it was emitting fluctuations. It was clear. The Buddha's head hadn't been damaged. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng and the other two revealed shocked expressions. Then, Lin Feng quickly flew toward the Buddha's head, wanting to fish it up, because Lin Feng felt that perhaps the Buddha's head would be of some use. But right at this moment, a huge wave surged, sweeping through the world. The digestive fluid formed a huge wave that swept directly toward Lin Feng. That unknown and terrifying existence had made its move. He wanted to stop Lin Feng from obtaining the Buddha's head. This scene caused Lin Feng's eyes to light up. That fellow had stopped him. This meant that the Buddha's head might really be of great help to them. Careful! Xianyuan Ruhan cried out in alarm. It's fine, Lin Feng said. He activated the ruler's armor. The ruler's armor's defense was strong enough. It had no problem blocking the digestive fluid. The only thing he had to be careful of was that his eyes were exposed. But Lin Feng used his magic power to form a defensive light shield. That defensive light shield mainly protected his head. Even if the digestive fluid sprinkled over, it would be blocked by the defensive light shield. Although Lin Feng couldn't block the digestive fluid's corrosion for a long time, but for a short period of time, there was no problem at all. Lin Feng quickly charged over. He passed through the waves formed by the digestive fluid. The digestive fluid splashed onto Lin Feng's body, but it couldn't break through the ruler's armor's defense. The magic power shield protecting Lin Feng's had also blocked the digestive fluid's attack. Finally, Lin Feng arrived in front of the Buddha's head. Powerful magic power surged out, directly sweeping up the Buddha's head. The Buddha's head was very big. It was about 4 to 5 meters in diameter. After Lin Feng grabbed the Buddha's head, a shocking scene occurred. The ancient Buddha skeleton that Lin Feng had put away earlier actually flew out. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Why did the remains of the ancient Buddha fly out? At this moment, an endless Buddhist light gushed out from the Buddha's head. Endless Buddhist light also gushed out from the ancient Buddha skeleton. Two kinds of Buddha light. They actually fused together. Then, Lin Feng heard the endless chirping of cicadas resounding throughout the world. The singing of the cicadas was loud and majestic. It was the sound of ancient Buddhas singing. Could it be that the statue of the Buddha head is dedicated to the ancient Buddha? Lin Feng couldn't help but think of a certain possibility. He felt that the possibility of this happening was very high. The ancient Buddha skeleton was one of the 7 ancestral Buddhas when he was alive. The 7 great Buddhas. What kind of terrifying existences were they? Every Buddha ancestor. All of them had grasped countless divine abilities. They were even the seniors of the Lord of the Buddha world. Back then, there were still many statues dedicated to them, but this was no longer the era of the titled gods. Therefore, the people of the present day, they no longer worshipped these ancient Buddhas, and the powers of the present day were rejecting Buddhism. Outside of Buddhism's own territory, there were no Buddhist temples to be seen. Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha. The Buddha head and the ancient Buddha skeleton spoke at the same time. Then, the Buddha head turned into a stream of light and flew into the body of the ancient Buddha skeleton. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The ancient Buddha skeleton actually began to grow flesh and blood. The ancient Buddha Kasaya also flew out and was draped over the body of the ancient Buddha skeleton. In the end, the ancient Buddha skeleton turned into a benevolent-looking old monk. Heavens, what's going on? Xianyuan Ruhan couldn't help but exclaim. In fact, it wasn't just Xianyuan Ruhan who was shocked. Even Lin Feng was completely shocked. The situation in front of him was really too inconceivable. Anyone who saw this scene would find it inconceivable. Senior, Lin Feng put his palms together. Benefactor, come with me, the old monk said. Yes, Lin Feng said. The Tao Tai and Xianyuan Ruhan quickly flew over. Lin Feng, the Tao Tai, and Xianyuan Ruhan followed behind the old monk. Lin Feng didn't know what was going on with the old monk. But no matter what, it didn't matter whether or not the old monk was the ancient Buddha that had died in the past. As long as he could take them away from this damned place, it was fine. The world formed by the stomach of the unknown, terrifying existence suddenly became violent. Violent winds and torrential rain. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Huge waves surged, engulfing heaven and earth. Namo Amitabha. The old monk put his palms together, and an endless amount of Buddhist light surged out, protecting Lin Feng, the Tao Tai, and Xianyuan Ruhan. They allowed all kinds of attacks to sweep over, but they couldn't break the Buddhist light. That's great, We'll definitely be able to escape this time, Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. He said, "How could it be that simple? Let's wait a little longer. I feel like there's going to be an unforeseen event." The old monk brought Lin Feng and the others to the stomach wall. They couldn't find the stomach wall on their own, but the old monk found it. The stomach wall was like a world's crystal wall. It wanted to break through the stomach wall. It was very difficult, but the old monk should be able to do it. Just as the old monk was about to rush over and attack the stomach wall, suddenly demonic energy surged, and a pair of terrifying eyes appeared from within the demonic energy. "Old bald donkey, you dare to ruin my plans? You don't want to live anymore." The terrifying existence said coldly, "Namo Amitba, evil saint heavenly demon, you don't belong to this world, so why do you commit so many evil deeds here?" The old monk asked, "Evil saint heavenly demon." So that terrifying existence was called Evil Saint Heavenly Demon. Hearing the name, it was obvious that it was an extremely terrifying being. His name even had the words Heavenly Demon in it. Could that guy be a heavenly demon from another world? What I want to do is my business. It's not up to an old bald donkey like you to interfere. Evil Saint Heavenly Demon sneered. Then tentacles stretched out from the black fog and wrapped around Lin Feng and the others. Buddha illuminates the heavens. The old monk put his palms together. Endless Buddhist light surged out. It dispelled all evil. After the tentacles were illuminated by the Buddhist light, they quickly burned. They had no choice but to retract them. Demon breaks the heavens. Evil Saint Heavenly Demon continued to attack. A terrifying demonic light flew out. That demonic light was like Panga's divine axe that could split the heavens and earth apart in an instant. That demonic light directly slashed towards the old monk. It wanted to directly kill the old monk. After sensing the attack of that demonic light, Lin Feng and the others' expressions changed drastically. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 5409. Mo Guang's power was really terrifying. Lin Feng was a little worried that the old monk wouldn't be able to withstand Mo Guang's attack. However, to Lin Feng's surprise, the old monk put his palms together in the face of Mo Guang's attack. He actually caught Mo Guang. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. It seemed that he had underestimated the old monk's means before. Humph! At this moment, the unknown and terrifying existence let out a cold snort. Then he unleashed a new attack. In the void, 99 pitch-black vortexes appeared. 9 was an ominous number. 99. That was the most ominous of ominous. So, the number 9. For a cultivator, it was definitely an extremely bad number, not to mention 99. The 99 vortexes emitted a gloomy and terrifying aura. After feeling the aura emitted from the 99 vortexes, Lin Feng's mind couldn't help but tremble slightly. He felt that the 99 vortexes would release an unimaginably terrifying attack. But now, he didn't know yet. In the 99 vortexes, what kind of attack would be released? Rumble, rumble, rumble. At this moment, the 99 vortexes all spun violently. Every time they spun, they emitted an aura that made people tremble involuntarily. Bang, 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 bang. Then, a series of loud sounds came out. From the 99 vortexes, 99 thick black pillars of light were shot out. Those black pillars of light, as if they had the power to destroy heaven and earth. That kind of power. It was absolutely shocking. After feeling the power of those pillars of light, Lin Feng's face became extremely ugly. any pillar of light. It had already made Lin Feng feel the aura of death. Not to mention, what if 99 pillars of light came together? That kind of aura of death. It was too strong. The situation. It was very bad. This point, Lin Feng was very clear. What to do? Lin Feng's expression turned grave. Now, it seemed that they could only pin their hopes on the old monk. There seemed to be no other way. He hoped that the old monk could show his prowess. At this moment, the old monk's hands kept forming hand seals. Then, a Buddhist light shield was formed. The Buddha's light shield protected them. When the Buddha's light shield was formed, 99 light pillars came crashing down. The 99 pillars of light, all of them bombarded the Buddha's light shield. Kacha kacha, Buddha's light shield. It actually began to crack. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng cursed inwardly. The attack just now. This was only the first wave of attacks from the 99 vortexes. The first wave of attacks. Dense cracks had already appeared on the Buddha's light shield. 3 waves of attacks at most. The Buddha's light shield was bound to shatter. Next, Lin Feng and the others would have to face the attacks of the 99 vortexes with their flesh and blood bodies. Just thinking about it made them feel extremely bad. At this moment, the second wave of attacks from the 99 vortexes had already been launched. The second wave of attacks. It was even more powerful than the first wave of attacks. Lin Feng was originally praying that the power of the second wave of attacks would be reduced, but now it seemed this hope was dashed. Lin Feng felt the attacks of the 99 vortexes were somewhat similar to his 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Every time they launched a punch, the power would gradually increase. This was the terrifying part of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. And every time the 99 vortexes launched an attack, the power would be constantly superimposed. The second attack was more powerful than the first attack. The third attack was more powerful than the second attack. The fourth attack was more powerful than the third attack. But the defense of Lin Feng and the others was getting weaker and weaker. Bang, bang, bang. 99 light pillars bombarded the Buddha's light shield. This time, the Buddha's light shield shattered. Lin Feng originally thought that the Buddha's light shield would be able to withstand 3 attacks. Who would have thought it couldn't withstand 3 attacks? It was only able to withstand 2 attacks before it was completely destroyed. Next, this was going to be troublesome. He had to break the 99 vortexes. Otherwise, he would die. The unknown and terrifying existence said sinisterly, "Old bald donkey, there's no need to struggle. Your death is here. No matter how you struggle, you won't be able to escape death." This guy was still extremely confident in his attacks. The 99 vortexes shook and released an even more powerful and terrifying wave. It seemed 99 vortexes. They were about to release an even more powerful attack. Danger, danger, danger. Just as the situation was getting dangerous to the point of no delay, the old monk attacked again. Ma, and pad, me, hum. This time, the old monk used a sound wave attack. He chanted 6 words. These 6 words were the Buddhist mantra of the 6 syllables. The Buddhist mantra of the 6 syllables was on the same level as the Taoists' 9 secrets. They were both the foundation of the sect. The old monk knew the 6 syllables. Lin Feng didn't find it strange. The 6 syllables formed an incomparably terrifying sound wave with the old monk as the center. That sound wave swept out in all directions. Of course, that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was, when this sound wave flew to the 99 vortexes, amidst the sound wave, it actually formed many Tao characters. Those Tao characters, they were precisely the 6 words, O-M, ma, N-I, pad, me, hum. The Tao characters fused with the sound wave. They fiercely bombarded the 99 vortexes. Bang, bang, bang. Along with a series of violent explosions, there were sounds of explosions. 99 vortexes. They began to explode. In the blink of an eye, all 99 vortexes exploded. What a terrifying 6 syllables. Lin Feng couldn't help but exclaim. The 6 syllables were indeed the foundation of the Buddhist sect. The power of the 6 syllables was so strong. It moved Lin Feng. O-M, ma, N-I, pad, me, hum. At this time, the old monk didn't stop. He once again roared out the 6 syllables. This time, the old monk directly launched an attack on that unknown and terrifying existence. That unknown and terrifying existence directly disappeared after seeing the old monk's attack. The old monk's attack didn't hit that unknown and terrifying existence. The old monk didn't chase after the other party. Instead, he quickly rushed to the stomach wall. The old monk wanted to tear that unknown and terrifying existence's body apart from the inside. But at this time, a powerful force wrapped around Lin Feng and the others. That powerful force, it threw Lin Feng and the others out. In the next moment, when Lin Feng and the others appeared again, they were already outside. Damn old bald donkey. When I recover, I will definitely grind your bones into powder. That unknown and terrifying existence roared angrily and then completely disappeared. Night. Very cold. Night. It was also very quiet. Chapter 54:10. Lin Feng and the others could finally heave a sigh of relief. That unknown and terrifying existence was the evil saint celestial devil. Who knew what it was? Although Lin Feng suspected that it was a celestial devil from a foreign world, he didn't think so. Lin Feng suddenly thought of a problem. Could it be that many of the unknown and terrifying existences in the time-reversed world were creatures from the foreign realm? At that moment, the old monk's body seemed like it was about to turn into a skeleton again. Holy monk! Lin Feng opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. He really didn't know how to salvage the situation. I'm just a remnant, left behind in the statue. Sooner or later, I'll scatter with the wind. I still have some time. If you have any questions, ask them. Asked Lin Feng when he heard the old monk. Holy monk, what kind of creature is that evil saint celestial devil? Is it a celestial devil from a foreign world? The old monk said, as far as I know, it shouldn't be a celestial devil from a foreign world. As for what it is exactly, I'm not very sure. However, it can change its form at will. It's very similar to the legendary all-changing demonic spirit clan. All-changing demonic spirit clan, is that a race from a foreign world? Lin Feng asked. Yes, and it's an extremely terrifying race. The old monk said. Lin Feng nodded and asked, Holy monk, how can I fully release the power of the Buddha bone? If I'm not mistaken, you should have cultivated the great karma art and the great predestination art. These 2 divine abilities might be able to help you activate the power of the Buddha bone. You can slowly explore them. After saying that, the old monk's body turned into a skeleton again. After seeing the old monk turn into a skeleton, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. Actually, he still had many questions he wanted to ask the old monk, but now he didn't have the chance. The Buddha head flew out. Then it completely shattered. The divine power disappeared. There was no possibility of recovery. Lin Feng put away the ancient Buddha skeleton and said, We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Xianyuan Ruhan and Tao Tai nodded. They didn't dare to stay here any longer, if he could make it out alive this time. For Lin Feng and the others, this was truly a matter of great fortune. The time reversal world was indeed too dangerous. One should never underestimate this world. Otherwise, one would have to pay an extremely heavy price. We're finally here. 10 days later, Lin Feng and the other two saw the ancient city in front of them that looked like a prehistoric beast. In that ancient city, it was Xianwen City. Immortal Wraith City was an ancient city at the level of a main city. It was extremely huge, and there were many cultivators coming and going. This was one of the largest trading markets in the eastern region. It was also one of the largest auction houses in the eastern region. So this place, every day, it would attract countless cultivators. The battle between the Red World Fairy and Qining Tian had attracted a lot of attention. It was mainly because Qining Tian's reputation was too great. He was a popular person by the side of the 33 Heavens Masters. It was said that he was very young and handsome. He was like a prince in a chaotic world. When Qining Tian first appeared, many girls secretly fancied him. On the way, Xianyuan Ruhan already knew that Lin Feng and Tao Tai were here because of the battle between the Red World Fairy and Qining Tian. However, she didn't know about the relationship between Lin Feng and the Red World Fairy. She simply thought that Lin Feng and Tao Tai were here to watch the show. After all, during this period of time, there were too many people who came to watch the show. Come with me to the trading company first. I'll give you the things then. Xianyuan Ruhan said, "We don't have a place to stay here. Help us arrange it." Lin Feng said, Xianyuan Ruhan, Lin Feng, and Tao Tai had experienced life and death together, so their relationship was much closer. When she heard Lin Feng ask her to arrange a place to stay, Xianyuan Ruhan didn't refuse. However, she smiled devilishly and said, "Of course, arranging a place to stay is no problem. But even though we know each other, we're brothers. So you have to pay for food and lodging." Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Are you that short of money?" "No, but it's your money. It'll be a waste if I don't earn it." Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng said, "No problem. It's just food and lodging. I'll give it to you when the time comes." The three of them paid the entrance fee and entered the city. As soon as they entered the city, a group of people rushed over. "Ruhan, you're finally here. You're a few days late. I was worried sick." The leader of the group was a man in his 30s. Of course, he was much older than that. When he saw Xianyuan Ruhan, he heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Feng remembered that Xianyuan Ruhan had said that she was an only child. Therefore, the man who called himself Xianyuan Ruhan's brother shouldn't be Xianyuan Ruhan's biological brother. He was probably an elder brother of the same clan. Then he thought about the fact that the Peerless Cliff had a trading company here. That meant that this man was most likely in charge of the trading company. Since Xianyuan Ruhan had come here, he naturally knew how dangerous the journey had been. That was why he'd been on edge all this time, afraid that something had happened to her. Although Xianyuan Ruhan's accident had nothing to do with him, it had still happened on the way to Xianwen City. If something had happened, who knew if Xianyuan Changfeng would blame him? That was very likely to have happened, but at least nothing had happened. Xianyuan Ruhan didn't mention the danger she'd encountered on the way. She said, "Don't worry. We just ran into some things on the way, so we were delayed." "That's good." The man said, "Ruhan, it's been so many years. How have you been?" At that moment, a young, handsome man smiled and asked. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was a rare, handsome man. "You're Xiao Zichen?" Xianyuan Ruhan asked uncertainly. The man smiled and nodded. "That's right. That's me. It's really been so many years. When we parted, I was only 13, and you were 15. More than 200 years have passed since then, said Nailan Ruhan. It's been 200 years. It seemed that Nailan Ruhan hadn't come from the outside world. She might have been born in a world where time had reversed. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. That's right. Time really passes too quickly. Xiao Zichen sighed. Then he narrowed his eyes and glanced at Lin Feng, then at Xianyuan Ruhan. He smiled and said, Ruhan, how should I address these two friends? Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Although Xiao Zichen was smiling, Lin Feng could sense that he was looking at him with a meaningful gaze. Sogu, Chapter 5411. These two are my friends. This is Lin Feng, and this is Wan Shitian. Xianyuan Ruhan introduced them. Now that the Taotai had transformed into a human, it had transformed into Wan Shitian. So when Xianyuan Ruhan introduced them, she introduced Xiao Zichen as Wan Shitian. Then Xianyuan Ruhan introduced Xiao Zichen to Lin Feng and the Taotai. She said, This is Xiao Zichen, the son of Xianwen City's city lord. An ancient city like Xianwen City naturally couldn't be compared to an ordinary city. To be able to become the city lord of Xianwen City, it was clear how extraordinary Xiao Zichen's father was. Then Xianyuan Ruhan introduced her brother to Lin Feng and Wan Shitian. Xianyuan Ruhan said, This is an elder brother of my clan. His name is Xianyuan Zixuan. Both sides cupped their fists in greeting. Then Xianyuan Zixuan said, This isn't the place to talk. Let's go back and talk in detail. Everyone nodded, and the group left. They returned to the Peerless Cliffs Trading Company in Xianwen City. The trading company opened by Unparalleled Cliff was one of the largest trading companies in Xianwen City. Business was very good. After arriving, Xianyuan Zixuan arranged accommodations for Lin Feng and Wan Shitian. Xiao Zichen knew that Xianyuan Ruhan must be very tired from the journey, so he didn't disturb her. Instead, he said goodbye and left, saying that he would come back tomorrow to see Xianyuan Ruhan. Before leaving, he glanced at Lin Feng, intentionally or unintentionally. Lin Feng didn't say anything, but his heart was as clear as a mirror. Xiao Zichen probably wanted to pursue Xianyuan Ruhan, but he felt that he was an obstacle in his pursuit of Xianyuan Ruhan. But Xiao Zichen was a very deep person. Perhaps he had enmity towards him, but he didn't show it. When facing him, he had an expression like a spring breeze. They looked like old friends who had known each other for many years. Lin Feng didn't care what Xiao Zichen was thinking or what he was planning. It was fine as long as he didn't provoke him. If he did, then he didn't care whether or not he was the son of Xianwen City's city lord. When the time came, he would definitely make him suffer the consequences. After leaving the Wushuang trading firm, the smile on Xiao Zichen's face turned slightly cold. Uncle Han, Xiao Zichen said. Sir. A middle-aged man beside Xiao Zichen replied. Go find out who that Lin Feng is. Xiao Zichen said. Yes, sir. The middle-aged man replied. Behind the Wushuang trading firm was a large courtyard. These were also the properties of the Peerless trading firm. However, it was mainly a place for the higher-ups to rest. Lin Feng and Taoya's residence was not far from Xianyuan Ruhan's residence. Xianyuan Ruhan said, 1,000 high-grade immortal stones a day. Don't go back on your word. Lin Feng replied, I don't care about this bit of immortal stones. Puffing yourself up at your own cost. Xianyuan Ruhan snorted. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng had a good rest. In the evening, Xianyuan Zixuan held a welcoming dinner for the three of them. It had been a while since Xianyuan Ruhan had tasted good food. As a result, she didn't care about her ladylike image and started eating. Xianyuan Zixuan looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Where did Brother Lin come from? Before Lin Feng could say anything, Xianyuan Ruhan said, "It hasn't been long since this guy came from the outside world, so there's no need to investigate his identity." Xianyuan Zixuan couldn't help but smile bitterly when Xianyuan Ruhan saw through his intentions. He felt somewhat helpless. Xianyuan Ruhan had always been straightforward when she spoke and acted. She was always like this. Sometimes she would make people lose face. However, who would dare say anything bad about Xianyuan Ruhan? Xianyuan Zixuan didn't look down on Lin Feng just because of his ordinary status. From his point of view, Xianyuan Ruhan was an extremely arrogant person. Since Lin Feng was able to walk together with Xianyuan Ruhan, this meant that Lin Feng was definitely unique. As for the Taotai, Xianyuan Zixuan could naturally see that the Taotai was just a cultivator following Lin Feng. It was probably a friend of Lin Feng's. Lin Feng said, "Oh, right, there's something I want to ask Brother Zixuan about." "Brother Lin, there's no harm in asking. As long as I know, I'll tell you the truth," Xianyuan Zixuan said. "Collect money? You must collect money. You still have to collect money when you go to the Rain Pavilion to gather information. You still have to collect money when you eat outside. Later, you'll have to pay for the tea and food as well." Xianyuan Ruhan immediately called out. Obviously, this girl was still holding a grudge against Lin Feng. Ruhan has always been a bit childish. "Brother Lin, please don't blame her," Xianyuan Zixuan said with a bitter smile. "It's fine. I won't lower myself to her level." Lin Feng said with a smile. Xianyuan Ruhan said, "Third brother, you're still speaking for this guy. You're about to anger me to death. You don't even know how badly I was bullied by him before." After hearing Xianyuan Ruhan's words, Xianyuan Zixuan couldn't help but mutter to himself. Xianyuan Zixuan understood Xianyuan Ruhan's temperament all too well. Xianyuan Ruhan had never suffered a loss since she was young. She had suffered a loss at Lin Feng's hands. However, she had happily come to Xianwen City with Lin Feng. This explained a lot of things. Could it be Xianyuan Ruhan and Lin Feng had a deeper relationship? When he thought of this, Xianyuan Zixuan couldn't help but be startled. Xianyuan Zixuan also realized something else. Xianyuan Ruhan would frequently argue with Lin Feng. However, she didn't seem angry at all. If they weren't quarrelsome, then what were they? It seemed that Xiao Zichen didn't have a chance. Although Xianyuan Zixuan was thinking about many things, he still smiled and said, "I won't get involved in the matters between the two of you. I knew you weren't reliable." Third brother, Xianyuan Ruhan, snorted coldly. However, she didn't say anything else. Lin Feng looked at Xianyuan Zixuan and said, "Actually, we wanted to ask you about the Red World Ferry. Brother Zixuan, do you know anything about the Red World Ferry?" Xianyuan Zixuan said, "The Red World Ferry is very mysterious. The outside world doesn't know much about her. I only know that she somehow offended the Master of the 33 Heavens, which is why the Master of the 33 Heavens wants to kill her. However, even after sacrificing many experts, he still hasn't succeeded. That's why Qin Ingtian decided to intervene. They've already fought a few times before, but neither of them was able to do anything to the other. That's why they've agreed to fight to the death." When he heard this, Lin Feng found it hard to believe. The Red World Ferry was so powerful. Qin Ingtian was actually on par with the Red World Ferry. It seemed that Qin Ingtian really was a heaven-defying existence. End of chapter. Chapter 54:12. Is the Red World Ferry in Xianwen City? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask curiously. "No," said Xuanxuan Sun. "No," said Xianyuan Zixuan. Lin Feng couldn't help muttering to himself. The Red World Ferry wasn't in Xianwen City. Where was the Red World Ferry? Could it be that she wanted to wait until the competition to come to Xianwen City? Brother Zixuan, have you heard of the Red World Ferry's whereabouts? Asked Lin Feng. I don't know. That woman is always alone. She did appear in Xianwen City before, but she quickly left, said Xianyuan Zixuan. She left, said Xianyuan Zixuan. Lin Feng had wanted to meet the Red World Fairy, but now he wouldn't be able to meet the Red World Fairy. But I heard that Qining Tian will be here soon. Xianyuan Zixuan said. Lin Feng couldn't help but nod. Lin Feng wasn't very interested in Qining Tian's whereabouts. So whether Qining Tian came or not didn't really matter to him. He didn't care either. After the banquet ended, Lin Feng and the other two went back to their residence. You should be fine tomorrow, right? Asked Xianyuan Ruhan. Lin Feng nodded. I'm fine. Why are you asking? You're using me as a shield, said Xianyuan Ruhan. What shield? Asked Lin Feng. Xianyuan Ruhan snapped. Are you really that stupid or just pretending? I don't believe that you can't tell that Xiao Zichen wants to pursue me. What does that have to do with me? Asked Lin Feng. Of course it does. I'm paying you rent, said Xianyuan Ruhan. Forget it. I'll pay you rent. I don't want to offend Xiao Zichen because of you, said Lin Feng. You bastard. Xianyuan Ruhan looked at Lin Feng angrily and said, How about this? If you act as my shield, I'll let you go to the treasury and choose a treasure. Really? Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Of course, I'm a man of my word. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Can you make the decision? Lin Feng looked at Xianyuan Ruhan suspiciously. Said Xianyuan Ruhan, Of course I can. The entire Peerless Cliff belongs to my family. My words carry enormous weight. All right, then it's a deal. Why don't we head to the treasury and pick out some treasures before Xiao Zichen comes tomorrow? Lin Feng said with a smile. Xianyuan Ruhan rolled her eyes and said, You're dreaming. Even if you're choosing treasures, you should do something first. Who knows if you will go back on your word when the time comes? Lin Feng said. Xianyuan Ruhan snorted coldly. Of course not. All right, I'll trust you this time, said Lin Feng. I'm leaving. See you tomorrow, said Xianyuan Ruhan. Why don't you come back with me? I'll hug you to sleep tonight. Lin Feng smiled. Stinking pervert, I'm going to kill you, screamed Xianyuan Ruhan. She took out her treasured sword and charged at Lin Feng. Lin Feng ran away. Xianyuan Ruhan was so angry that she took her treasured sword and returned to her room. After studying the demon scripture for a while, Lin Feng went to sleep. He rested well for the night. The next day, the weather wasn't good. It started to drizzle. Lin Feng, hurry up and come out. Early in the morning, Xianyuan Ruhan shouted from outside. The Taotai wasn't interested in getting involved. He stayed in his room to study the demon scripture. Lin Feng walked outside. Xianyuan Ruhan was holding an umbrella. She looked very beautiful in her white dress. She looked like someone who had walked out of a painting. Lin Feng quickly walked over and squeezed under the umbrella. Aya, you're going to die. The space is only so big. Hurry up and get out, said Xianyuan Ruhan. Can you bear to see me get wet? Said Lin Feng. You deserve it. Xianyuan Ruhan snorted. Lin Feng said, You can't say that later. What do you mean? Asked Xianyuan Ruhan. Lin Feng said, Didn't you want me to be your shield? Since you want me to be your shield, we need to be more intimate. Otherwise, it'll be easy to get exposed. Are you trying to take advantage of me? Is that why you said that? Xianyuan Ruhan looked at Lin Feng suspiciously. Lin Feng said, Nonsense. I'm doing this for your own good. If you want me to be your shield, you have to listen to me. If you don't want to listen to me, that's fine too. I can't do it today. You should find someone else. TCH, stingy. Xianyuan Ruhan couldn't help but pout. Then she said, but don't go too far. Of course not. Let's get used to it first, said Lin Feng. How do we get used to it? Asked Xianyuan Ruhan. Lin Feng reached out and hugged Xianyuan Ruhan's waist. Xianyuan Ruhan's body was pressed against Lin Feng's. What are you doing? Asked Xianyuan Ruhan. I'm getting used to it, said Lin Feng. Xianyuan Ruhan blushed. Although Lin Feng said they needed to get used to it, this kind of intimate contact made her heart beat faster. However, Xianyuan Ruhan didn't refuse. She really did need to get used to it. Otherwise, she might give herself away later. Let's go, said Lin Feng. Okay. Xianyuan Ruhan nodded. Lin Feng held her in his arms. At first, she walked a little stiffly. However, it didn't take long. Xianyuan Ruhan got used to it a lot. His gait was also more normal now. Lin Feng said, Isn't it just rejecting Xiao Zichen? Why do you need a shield? Tell me honestly, is it because you're interested in me, but you're too embarrassed to tell me directly? Is that why you're using a shield as an excuse to get close to me? Bah, you're really shameless. How can you say something like that? Xianyuan Ruhan spat at Lin Feng. Then she said, Actually, I used you as a shield because there have been too many flies following me all these years. Now that the Red World Fairy and that Cheating Tian are fighting, they've attracted a lot of people. Of course, that includes a lot of flies. At this time, Xiao Zichen probably isn't the only one who's come looking for me. There must be other flies as well. You're here to tell them to give up completely. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. Someone like Xiao Zichen was like a fly in front of Xianyuan Ruhan. Lin Feng said, You're always so polite in front of Xiao Zichen. Why are you calling him a fly behind his back? In front of people, I'm taking into account the relationship between his family and the Peerless Cliffs, so I need to maintain a peaceful appearance. But behind his back, I can say whatever I want. Who can control me? Xianyuan Ruhan snorted. It had to be said that this girl was very willful, but she was also very interesting. Lin Feng found that he seemed to like Xianyuan Ruhan more and more. Sogu, Chapter 54:13. Lin Feng said, If he finds out that you've been calling him a fly behind his back, I wonder what he'll think. He can think whatever he wants. Xianyuan Ruhan smiled. Right now, nobody knows that you're a fake flower protector. If they do, who knows how they'll deal with you? If you regret it, it's not too late. Lin Feng said, A real man keeps his word. Since I've agreed, I won't regret it. Xianyuan Ruhan said, You're actually going all out for a treasure. You're a classic example of someone who doesn't care about his life for a treasure. Said Lin Feng, You misunderstood me. The reason why I agreed to help you was because I wanted to help you. I didn't do it for an insignificant treasure. Xianyuan Ruhan pursed her lips. She clearly didn't believe Lin Feng's words. However, she didn't say anything. After leaving their residence, many servants saw Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan hugging each other under the same umbrella. Their mouths couldn't help but gape. After all, this world was a more conservative one. Therefore, if their relationship was not very close, they would not be able to survive. Men and women wouldn't do such a thing. The weather was drizzling. A handsome man and a beautiful woman. The man was holding the woman's slender waist as they strolled through the rain. It really was a scene that had nothing to do with romance. Xianyuan Zixuan, who had just left his residence and was walking towards the trading company, couldn't help but mutter to himself when he saw Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan. He'd previously guessed that Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan's relationship wasn't ordinary. Now, he could confirm that his guess was correct. Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan's relationship really wasn't ordinary. They were actually being so intimate in broad daylight. It seemed that they weren't afraid of outsiders finding out. He wondered what the Cliff Master would think if he found out about this. After thinking about his unfathomable uncle, Xianyuan Zixuan shook his head. From his point of view, even if Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan's relationship really did work out, it would still be difficult. There would be countless twists and turns in the process. That uncle of his, he wasn't easy to talk to. Looks like everyone knows about our relationship now, said Lin Feng. Lin Feng said. Xianyuan Ruhan said indifferently, I just want everyone to know. Otherwise, why would those flies leave obediently? Lin Feng smiled. Since everyone knows about our relationship, can we stay together tonight? Stinking scoundrel. Xianyuan Ruhan reached out to pinch the soft flesh on Lin Feng's waist. This move seemed to be the woman's trump card. Lin Feng grimaced in pain. But in the eyes of others, Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan were actually flirting. It was so good to be young. Many people couldn't help but sigh. Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan arrived at the outer courtyard. At this moment, a servant led Xiao Zichen to the outer courtyard. When she saw Lin Feng holding Xianyuan Ruhan's waist and walking out under the same umbrella as Xianyuan Ruhan, she was stunned. Xiao Zichen's gaze instantly turned cold. However, this guy had a gloomy personality and knew how to endure. Thus, he quickly covered it up. He quickly walked over and said, Little Sister Ruhan, Big Brother Zichen. Xianyuan Ruhan called out with a smile. If it weren't for the fact that Xianyuan Ruhan had secretly used the word fly to describe him, he would have never believed it. Lin Feng definitely wouldn't dare believe that the person calling him Big Brother Zichen so sweetly was Xianyuan Ruhan. She really was a demoness. Brother Lin. Xiao Zichen greeted Lin Feng. Brother Xiao. Lin Feng greeted Xiao Zichen as well. Are you planning to go out? Asked Xiao Zichen. Xianyuan Ruhan nodded. That's right. This is Lin Feng's first time in Xianwen City, so I'm planning to take Lin Feng out to take a look. Lin Feng realized that Xianyuan Ruhan really wasn't a simple woman. If she called him too intimately, it might actually arouse Xiao Zichen's suspicions. However, if she called him by his name, it would actually make it easier to confirm their relationship. So it's like that. I originally wanted to invite Little Sister Ruhan out to meet some friends, but since you're going out with Brother Lin, it seems we can only do it next time. Xiao Zichen said. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh inwardly. This Xiao Zichen really was an extraordinary person. He clearly wanted to pursue Xianyuan Ruhan, but the first time they met, he probably saw Lin Feng as a stumbling block. At that time, he already felt enmity towards Lin Feng. But now, Xiao Zichen could actually act as if nothing had happened when he saw how intimate he was with Xianyuan Ruhan. It was truly admirable. Lin Feng asked if the woman he wanted to pursue was extremely intimate with someone else in front of him. Lin Feng definitely wouldn't be able to maintain his calm demeanor. He might even have to beat the other person up. In any case, he couldn't get the woman. Naturally, he had to vent the anger in his heart. However, Xiao Zichen wasn't like that. So, people like Xiao Zichen were usually very scheming and crafty. He had to be on guard against him. Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't say these thoughts out loud, nor would he show them. We can go shopping whenever we want, so why don't we go with you to meet some of your friends? Xiao Zichen continued. Actually, to be honest, Little Sister Ruhan, you know those friends as well? Xianyuan Ruhan asked curiously, Who are these friends you're talking about? Xiao Zichen said, You'll know when you meet them." He then looked at Lin Feng and said, "When the time comes, Brother Lin can get to know them as well. They're all from great clans, so getting to know a few of them will be beneficial for Lin Gongzi. I'll have to trouble Brother Xiao to introduce me." Lin Feng smiled. Of course. Xiao Zichen couldn't help but smile as well. Xiao Zichen's beast carriage was outside. The three of them rode it out of the city. "Aren't they in the city?" Xianyuan Ruhan asked. "No, those guys are playing in a hunting ground outside the city," Xiao Zichen said. "Hunting ground? Hunting?" Lin Feng asked in surprise. These young masters of great clans were rather leisurely and elegant. They actually went out to hunt. "It's hunting, but it's also not hunting. There are many interesting places in the hunting ground that the young masters of great clans like," Xiao Zichen said with a smile. Xiao Zichen said with a smile. He did not make his words too clear. Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything else. Once they got there, they'd know what was so special about the hunting ground. Sogu's website, Chapter 5414. After leaving the city, the carriage rose into the air and sped up. 2 hours later, they arrived at their destination. The hunting ground was in a primeval forest. It was extremely large. It was also extremely dangerous. There were terrifying beasts everywhere. Hunting and being hunted seemed to be the main theme here. These aristocratic clan disciples were born with a spoon in their mouths. So in their lives, they couldn't understand what it meant to struggle. They liked to find exciting things to make themselves happy. Perhaps the method in front of him was a good one. The beast carriage stopped on top of a mountain peak. It was halfway up the mountain. There was a platform there. The carriage stopped on the platform. Quite a few people had already gathered on the platform. "They're here." At that moment, a cultivator said. Then a group of people walked towards the carriage. When they arrived at the carriage, Lin Feng, Xianyuan Ruhan, and Xiao Zichen had just gotten off the carriage. "Fairy Ruhan, long time no see." "Fairy Ruhan, it's been a few years, but you're still as elegant as ever." More and more people came to greet Xianyuan Ruhan. It seemed that quite a few people knew her. "Greetings, gentlemen." Xianyuan Ruhan smiled charmingly. Her appearance could really make people fall head over heels for her. She really was a top-quality woman. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Not all of these people were Xianyuan Ruhan's admirers. But Lin Feng had a feeling that there were a few people. They should be Xianyuan Ruhan's admirers. Xianyuan Ruhan didn't lack admirers. Perhaps every ancient city and every major power had her admirers. After all, Xianyuan Ruhan's status was there. On top of that, she was also a goddess-level existence. The number of people chasing after her was probably enough to circle the entire eastern region. Now, because many people had come to watch the battle between the Red World Fairy and Qin Ingtian, many of these admirers had come to Xianwen City. Lin Feng guessed that the main purpose of today's gathering wasn't to invite Xianyuan Ruhan. It was to invite him. Xiao Zichen had invited these people to give him a show of strength. This was something that Xiao Zichen had already planned beforehand. However, Xiao Zichen didn't expect that when he went to look for Xianyuan Ruhan today, he would see himself and Xianyuan Ruhan so intimate. He reckoned that Xiao Zichen was incomparably enraged and wished he could kill him. At this moment, someone looked at Lin Feng. He then said, "Brother, you don't look familiar. How should I address you?" "Lin Feng. So it's Brother Lin. May I know which power is behind Brother Lin?" Someone else said, "Rogue Cultivator." Lin Feng said, "Oh, Rogue Cultivator? Brother Lin, you're quite capable. You're an independent cultivator, and you're Miss Ruhan's friend." "Miss Ruhan," doesn't have an independent cultivator as a friend because before Brother Lin, Miss Ruhan's friends were all from noble families. The other cultivator said with a smile. Lin Feng could naturally tell that this aristocratic family's descendant was scolding him for his lowly status, cursing without using any vulgarities. He was also a sharp-tongued guy. Aristocratic family's descendants are all noble? This is the first time I've heard of this. I have many great powers under me, and those aristocratic family's descendants are all my slaves. Lin Feng said indifferently. Kid, what did you say? Immediately, a few people's expressions turned unsightly. I said that aristocratic family's descendants are all my slaves. Lin Feng shrugged. Xianyuan Ruhan immediately grew excited. Lin Feng really wasn't afraid of offending people. The more he was like this, the more excited Xianyuan Ruhan became. His shield acted forcefully. This was what it meant to be happy. It seemed that he hadn't found the wrong shield. Do you know how many people you've humiliated? Do you know what the consequences of your words will be? Know your place. How dare you boast so shamelessly? Who gave you the guts? Many people spoke up one after another. Their voices were very gloomy. Moreover, they were cold. Lin Feng said, What's wrong, everyone? I know that you're all aristocratic family's descendants, but I didn't say that you're my slaves. I said that the aristocratic family's descendants are my slaves, so please don't misunderstand. How could the aristocratic family's descendants not understand that Lin Feng was indirectly insulting them? Actually, Lin Feng meant that they were only worthy of being his slaves. But now that Lin Feng didn't admit it, they were furious. At that moment, he said, Brothers, there's been some misunderstanding between you and Brother Lin. Please don't overthink it. Brother Lin is a straightforward person, but he doesn't have any evil intentions. Just now, we all misunderstood him. The others looked gloomy, but they didn't say anything else. At that moment, a young man said, Since we're all here to play, why don't we start playing now? Sure, I can't wait to practice, said a young man. At this time, a young master said, What do you want to play? Count me in, said Xianyuan Ruhan. Hunting, said a young man. That's good. I like it, said Xianyuan Ruhan. Brother Lin, do you want to participate? Asked Xiao Zichen, looking at Lin Feng. Of course. Lin Feng nodded. At that moment, a young man said, Just hunting is boring. Why don't we bet on something? That way, we'll be more competitive and the hunt will be more exciting. What are we betting on? Asked Xiao Zichen. How about treasures? Asked Xianyuan Ruhan. One of the young men shook his head and said, We don't lack treasures, so there's no point in betting on treasures. How about this? The loser will strip naked and run around Xianwen City. Uffed. When she heard that, Xianyuan Ruhan choked. Then she said, Then I'll withdraw. You guys can continue. Brother Lin, do you dare to bet? Asked one of the young men, looking at Lin Feng. Everyone looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel speechless, because Lin Feng could roughly guess what they were thinking. These people wanted to defeat him during the hunt, and then he would run around Xianwen City naked. When the time came, he would lose all face. Once that happened, as far as they were concerned, he and Xianyuan Ruhan would be finished. Of course, this kind of gamble was very childish, but it was also very sinister. All right, I'll bet with you, said Lin Feng. When they heard Lin Feng agree, the group laughed. Clearly, these people thought that Lin Feng would definitely lose. Pass down the order. In 15 minutes, release the prey, said Xiao Zichen. Release the prey, said Xiao Zichen to a servant. Yes, young master, said the servant. The servant replied, and then quickly left to pass on the order. There are bows and arrows here. Of course, you can use your own, said one of the young men. I'll use my own bow. said Lin Feng. There are mounts here, all kinds of mounts. Of course, if you don't like them, you can also use your own mounts. That young man continued. Lin Feng nodded. Later, we must kill everyone and trample those fellows under our feet. Xianyuan Ruhan came to Lin Feng's side and said. Lin Feng smiled and said, Don't you have confidence in me? Xianyuan Ruhan knew that Lin Feng was powerful. She smiled and said, Of course I have confidence. Those self-righteous fellows think that they have you. A quarter of an hour passed quickly. Many cages were opened on the mountain peak. Now, those cages were opened. Many people were chained and handcuffed, and they were chased out. End of chapter. Chapter 54:15. After seeing the people who had been chased out, Lin Feng's expression became extremely gloomy. So many people had been chased out. Could it be that the prey was those people? What is the meaning of this? Lin Feng asked, Those people are the prey. Haven't you participated in this kind of hunt before? Lin Feng's expression was a bit ugly. This kind of hunt was too cruel, not to mention participating in it. Lin Feng had never even heard of this kind of hunt before. Lin Feng's expression was naturally very ugly. As long as there was a bit of kindness in his heart, how could he participate in this kind of hunt? Xiao Zichen, aren't you guys too perverted? How could you treat so many fresh lives as prey? This is too cruel. Xianyuan Ruhan said coldly. This was also her first time seeing this kind of hunt. Now, she was shocked. Her inner world. In the end, she was still kind. So, she couldn't accept all of this. Xiao Zichen said, Sister Ruhan, don't be angry. This is also my first time coming to this kind of place, so I'm not particularly clear about it. Lin Feng wouldn't believe Xiao Zichen's words. Xianyuan Ruhan probably wouldn't believe it either. Xiao Zichen was a very sinister person. However, he still had to pretend to be a good person. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as Xiao Zichen and Xianyuan Ruhan were talking, someone had already drawn their bow and shot arrows. The speed of the arrows was extremely fast. One arrow after another quickly flew over. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Along with the sound of tearing, the fleeing criminals were shot through by the arrows. They died on the spot. A woman was shot to death, her corpse falling to the ground. Her daughter was only 4 or 5 years old. As she cried, she shouted, Mother, mother! She really hoped that her mother would wake up. However, her mother would never wake up again. The reason for that was because her mother had completely fallen asleep. Pooh! In the next moment, a magic arrow pierced through the girl's head. Ha 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 ha! My archery skills are pretty good, right? The young master who killed the little girl was riding a huge dragon and had already flown into the air. He said with a laugh, Ha 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 ha! My archery skills are pretty good, right? After killing the little girl with a single arrow, he appeared to be somewhat pleased with himself. Sun Chu, you're too strong. Xianyuan Ruhan said coldly, Miss Ruhan, many people in your clan also like to play these games. Do you know that? The young master called Sun Chu said, Impossible. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Sun Chu smiled indifferently and said, Nothing is impossible. This world is cruel, and everything is possible in this world. Actually, you might not know this, but all the nobles like to play this game, because killing ferocious beasts is really boring. Only killing criminals with thoughts is interesting. Don't you think you've gone too far? Xianyuan Ruhan said coldly, said a young master called Zhou Liang. There's nothing too far about it. The rules of the world of cultivators have changed everything. Besides, these people offended many powerful groups and were captured after their families were destroyed. What awaits them is a death sentence. Since they're going to die anyway, they're going to become our prey. At least they're going to have some value. Let's not talk about this anymore. The hunt has begun. Let's start the feast of slaughter. Whoever kills the least will be the loser, said a young master. At this moment, a young master said. Similarly, he summoned his mount and mounted it, intending to hunt down those criminals. What should we do? Asked Xianyuan Wuhan anxiously, looking at Lin Feng. But now she had already lost her mind. She didn't know whether to persuade Lin Feng to attack or not to persuade Lin Feng not to attack. If he attacked, it would be too cruel. If he didn't attack, Lin Feng would lose the competition. Lin Feng patted Xianyuan Ruhan's hand and said, "Don't worry. Leave it to me." Xiao Zichen sneered inwardly. He didn't believe that Lin Feng had a way to emerge victorious, because the methods of those young masters were very extraordinary. They had joined forces to bully Lin Feng. When the time came, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to kill much prey. But at that moment, said Lin Feng. "Everybody, please wait," said Lin Feng. "What? Do you have anything else to say? Could it be that you want to beg for mercy? If you do that, it'll save us a lot of effort." One cultivator after another spoke. These young men were all smiling coldly while looking at Lin Feng. They felt that Lin Feng, he was definitely going to play some tricks. Said Lin Feng, "I won't beg for mercy, but I want to change the way of the competition." Said Lin Feng. "Change the competition? What kind of competition do you want?" Asked Zhou Liang. Lin Feng said, "The time limit is 1 incense stick's worth of time. Within 1 incense stick's worth of time, all of you go and kill those criminals. I'll protect them. If you kill more people than there are survivors, I'll lose." Hearing Lin Feng's words, the group of people couldn't help but frown. They were pondering the feasibility of Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng said, "What? Are you afraid? That's true. After all, your abilities are limited." "Brat, what are you talking about?" Hearing Lin Feng say that their abilities were limited, a few young masters glared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "Am I wrong? Your provocation is very clumsy, but we can fulfill your wish. We'll bet with you." At that moment, a young master said. Lin Feng smiled and said, "That's good." Then Lin Feng took out the Hoi Bao. At that moment, the young masters all rode their mounts towards the escaping criminals. Yi Xian didn't ride a mount. Instead, he stood in place. He coldly watched as the young masters rode their mounts away. What is this guy trying to do? Xiao Zichen couldn't help but frown. He didn't know what Lin Feng was trying to do. If he wanted to stop those young masters, he should at least ride his mount and chase after them, right? However, Lin Feng didn't do that, which made him very confused. The distance between the two sides was increasing. How was he going to stop them later? Xiao Zichen wasn't the only one who was confused. Even Xianyuan Ruhan was very confused. She didn't know what Lin Feng was trying to do. The disciples of the rich and influential families turned their heads and looked at Lin Feng mockingly. From their point of view, they were certain that Lin Feng would be defeated. But at that moment, Lin Feng took out many arrows. Then he drew his bow and shot. Swoosh, 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 one after another. Magic arrows flew out at high speed. Those arrows, they quickly shot towards the young master's mounts. "Lin Feng, what the hell are you doing?" The group of young masters couldn't help but roar angrily. They wanted to ride their mounts to avoid Lin Feng's arrows, but they couldn't. One mount after another was killed by Lin Feng. The furious group of young masters all flew towards Lin Feng, their eyes spitting fire. They looked like they wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Feng. Xianyuan Ruhan was also stunned. She really hadn't expected Lin Feng to kill their mounts. But then Xianyuan Ruhan's eyes twinkled. Lin Feng was insane. She liked it. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 54:16. Old Steamed Bun's new book, Devouring the Heavens, had already released more than 20 chapters of content. Many readers would scold him for writing a new book. If he wrote a new book, there would be less updates for the old book. Old Steamed Bun explained why he wrote a new book. Firstly, it was because he had written 11 million words and was already in the later stages. Many holes had to be filled up. There was no way to write as quickly as before. Because he wrote too quickly, Old Steamed Bun was also worried that the later content would be unworthy of everyone's support. Secondly, it was because he needed to support his family. Everyone should know that Old Steamed Bun had just had a baby at home, and the pressure on his life had suddenly increased. All kinds of expenses pressured Old Steamed Bun until he couldn't breathe. Old Steamed Bun had to earn money. Therefore, Old Steamed Bun needed to start a new book and write both books together. Update plan. Archaic, dragon-esque elephant art. 5 updates a day. Devouring the Heavens. 3 updates a day during the new book period. Add updates according to different situations. I hope that everyone will support Old Steamed Bun's Devouring the Heavens. Now, you can search for Devouring the Heavens on QQ Reading and add it to your bookshelf. Brothers who use QQ Bookstore on their phones will have to wait patiently for a few days. Because of the New Year's holiday, the editor is still on holiday. When they come back from the holiday, they will change their contract status and be able to search for the book Devouring the Heavens on their phones on QQ. I hope that brothers from all channels can download QQ Reading and add Devouring the Heavens to your bookshelf. During the free period, I need everyone's support for the new book's results to be better. After downloading QQ Reading, there will be free recommendation tickets, and you can vote for Devouring the Heavens every day. Old Steamed Bun thanked everyone for their support. 2019, I wish everyone a happy life. Be healthy and happy. Sogu, Reading Website. Chapter 54:17. A group of people rushed over and surrounded Lin Feng. Zhou Liang said coldly, "Do you know how precious our mounts are? You actually dared to kill our mounts. Can you afford to pay us back?" Lin Feng asked, "Are your mounts expensive? They look very ordinary to me." The corners of their mouths twitched violently. Of course their mounts were expensive. Even the cheapest mount was worth 10 million high-grade immortal stones. The most expensive mount was worth 80 million high-grade immortal stones, even if they were from aristocratic clans. However, that many immortal stones was not a small sum to them. Thus, when they heard Lin Feng say that their mounts were expensive, they were infuriated. They were almost angered to death. They wanted nothing more than to cut Lin Feng into 8 pieces. Sun Chu said, "My mount is worth 50 million high-grade immortal stones. Lin Feng, you killed my mount. You have to pay me back." "My mount is worth 30 million high-grade immortal stones. My mount is worth 20 million high-grade immortal stones. My mount is worth 80 million high-grade immortal stones. My mount is worth 40 million high-grade immortal stones." A group of young masters surrounded Lin Feng and demanded compensation from Lin Feng. Xiao Zichen looked at Lin Feng with a mocking expression. Lin Feng was in big trouble now. He had killed so many mounts. These young masters, how could they let Lin Feng off so easily? However, Xiao Zichen acted as if this matter did not concern him. He was just waiting to watch the show. Lin Feng said, "Isn't it just a dozen or so mounts that died? How many immortal stones is that? You are all direct descendants of a top-tier aristocratic clan. Is there a need to be so flustered and exasperated over a few million high-grade immortal stones? Those who don't know might think that you're a bunch of paupers." When they heard Lin Feng's words, the group's mouths couldn't help but twitch violently. Their mounts had been killed by Lin Feng, and Lin Feng was still mocking them for being a bunch of paupers. This was truly intolerable. Zhou Liang sneered. Stop bragging. Just tell me if you can compensate us for the cost of our mounts. Of course, I didn't say that I wouldn't pay. For you, a few million is indeed a lot, but in my eyes, it's just a drop in the ocean. After all, people at your level really can't understand the quality of life of people at my level. Lin Feng said indifferently. His words were filled with contempt and disdain for this group of people. The group of young masters were so angry that they were trembling all over. What kind of status did they have? Now, they were being belittled by Lin Feng again and again. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Feng owed them immortal stones, they would be worried that after teaching Lin Feng a lesson, they would be in trouble. Lin Feng reneged on his debt and refused to return the immortal stones. They had already made their move. Don't talk so much nonsense. Hurry up and return the immortal stones to us. A young master said in exasperation. All right, line up one by one. Lin Feng said, give it to me first. My mount is worth 50 million. A young master said, what mount is it? Lin Feng asked, the ice crystal beast is my mount. The young master said, ice crystal beast? Hee, a mount worth 20 million. And you want 50 million? Lin Feng sneered, then took out 20 million and handed it over. Damn. That young master couldn't help but curse gloomily. He had originally wanted to extort some money from Lin Feng. Who would have thought that Lin Feng would be so shrewd? Lin Feng began to give these people their mounts. Many of them were quite happy after exchanging their mounts. They had long wanted to change their mounts, but their mounts couldn't be used. They didn't have enough immortal stones to buy new mounts. Lin Feng had killed their mounts. Now, he had compensated them with immortal stones. Now, they could go buy new mounts. After compensating the last person, Lin Feng looked at Xianyuan Ruhan. He asked, has it been an incense stick's worth of time? It's here. Xianyuan Ruhan giggled. A devilish expression hung on her beautiful face. Hearing Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan's conversation, the young master's expressions turned ugly. They finally understood. They knew why Lin Feng had killed their mounts. Because Lin Feng knew that, with just him alone, it was impossible to stop so many of them from hunting the escaped prisoners. But now that Lin Feng had killed their mounts, things were different. After Lin Feng killed their mounts, they would be furious. They would come looking for trouble with Lin Feng. At that time, they would haggle over compensation. Because of this matter, everyone actually forgot that the bet was still in place. When they came back to their senses, it was too late. You cheated, Sun Chu said. His expression was gloomy. What did I cheat? Are you unwilling to admit defeat? Lin Feng asked. Yes, you cheated. If you hadn't cheated, how could we have lost to you? Sun Chu said coldly. I killed your mounts. You could have flown to hunt. You were the ones who took the initiative to surround me. How can you blame me for that? Lin Feng shrugged. Xianyuan Ruhan chimed in. That's right. That's right. Lin Feng didn't kill your mounts on purpose. His archery wasn't accurate. Therefore, if I accidentally shot your mounts, you can ask Lin Feng for compensation. You lost the competition. Don't try to find excuses for yourself. That's not what a man should do, said Lin Feng. Shameless, shameless. The group was extremely depressed. In their eyes, Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruahan were a pair of shameless villains working together. They could come up with any excuse they wanted. The group was furious. They were so angry that they were trembling. Zhou Liang said, let's go. Ignore this kid. As Zhou Liang spoke, he wanted to soar into the sky and take the lead in leaving. Lin Feng sneered. You want to leave after losing the competition? How can there be such a good thing in the world? Stay here. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng raised his right hand and slapped at Zhou Liang. A huge energy hand condensed in the air and shot towards Zhou Liang. When he saw the energy hand, Zhou Liang's expression changed abruptly. However, Zhou Liang wasn't a simple person. He faced Lin Feng's energy hand and slapped it. Bang! Both sides attacked. They collided fiercely. Zhou Liang's attack was destroyed in an instant. Then, Lin Feng's powerful attack landed on Zhou Liang's body. Zhou Liang was sent flying by Lin Feng. Uffed. Zhou Liang coughed up blood. His face was as white as a sheet. Thump. Zhou Liang fell to the ground in a sorry state. He had just gotten up when he fell to the ground again. Sogu. Chapter 54:18. Brat, how could you injure him so badly? You've gone too far. Even though some people were criticizing Lin Feng, that's right. If you have something to say, we can talk calmly. What's the meaning of injuring him like this? Do you think we're easy to bully? There are so many of us. Do you think we're afraid of you? One by one, the young masters said coldly. These young masters, they were all infuriated by Lin Feng. This was because they were like grasshoppers on the same rope as Zhou Liang. Now, Zhou Liang was beaten half to death. It was no different from slapping their faces. Moreover, Lin Feng obviously wanted to keep them here. The group of people was naturally infuriated. They knew what Lin Feng's goal was. He wanted them to go streaking. How could they possibly do something like that? If they went streaking in Xianwen City, the upper echelons of their families would kill them when they returned. Originally, they wanted to scheme against Lin Feng. But now, they were the ones who were in trouble. But what could they do? However, the group of people did not intend to abide by the bet. As the saying went, the law could not punish the majority. With so many of them, they were not afraid of Lin Feng alone. Even if they publicly reneged on the bet, what could Lin Feng do? Could it be that Lin Feng could defeat all of them by himself? Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, "This guy publicly reneged on the bet. Since that's the case, I'll have to exercise my rights." "What rights do you have?" The group of young masters asked doubtfully. "If anyone publicly reneges on the bet, I can beat him half to death. Moreover, I can punish him as I wish." Lin Feng said. Hearing Lin Feng's words, the group of people's mouths twitched violently. Sun Chu said coldly, "When did we have such an agreement?" "I just added it." Lin Feng said, F***CK. When we agreed on the bet, we didn't say that we could casually add conditions. A young master said, angrily. Lin Feng replied, "I didn't say that I couldn't add any conditions." The group of young masters almost suffered internal injuries from Lin Feng's words. Xianyuan Ruhan was rocking back and forth with laughter. She said, "Lin Feng, you're really something. You're really bad, but I like it." Lin Feng said, "Even if you like me, don't be so direct in front of these people. Let's go home and talk about it in my room." "Fuck you." Xianyuan Ruhan blushed and spat at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. He looked at the group of young masters and said, "Everyone, don't force me to make a move. Take off your clothes and run naked in Xianwen City." "We definitely won't do that," the group of young masters said coldly. "Are you all intending to go against the terms of the bet?" Lin Feng sneered. "So what if I am? Can you do anything to us?" Someone replied with a sneer. They directly ignored Lin Feng. They had the advantage in numbers, so they didn't think much of Lin Feng at all. "Since that's the case, I can only beat you half to death." Lin Feng said indifferently, "With just you?" The group of young masters looked at Lin Feng mockingly. They had to admit that Lin Feng was a pretty strong cultivator. However, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't possibly deal with so many of them alone, right? The group of young masters was fearless. Lin Feng sneered and directly released his 15-fold domineering magnetic field. First, he would reduce their combat power by 50%. The domineering magnetic field attacked indiscriminately. When the 15-fold domineering magnetic field enveloped the group, the expressions of the group of people changed drastically. Even Xiao Zichen's expression couldn't help but change slightly. Clearly, before this, he hadn't expected Lin Feng to have such a powerful move. The 15-fold domineering magnetic field didn't just reduce the opponent's combat power. It could also suppress speed, reaction speed, perception, and so on. Of course, the greatest impact on a cultivator should be a blow to their confidence. Once one's self-confidence was damaged, it was a very fatal thing. Amazing! Lin Feng, you actually have so many tricks up your sleeve. Xianyuan Ruhan couldn't help but exclaim. Actually, she wasn't very clear about Lin Feng's methods. The only thing she knew was that Lin Feng was very strong. Now, this kind of ability to suppress people's cultivation indiscriminately was truly heaven-defying. Door of everlasting life, suppress. Lin Feng attacked. He condensed the illusory door of everlasting life. The illusory door of everlasting life descended from the sky, suppressing the group of young masters. The group of young masters had extraordinary backgrounds, but they weren't like spoiled brats. They were actually very talented, and their strength was extremely terrifying. When they saw Lin Feng condense the illusory door of everlasting life, they all attacked. One by one, the group of young masters attacked. They used all kinds of attacks to attack the illusory door of everlasting life. Bang, bang, bang. However, a series of violent collisions were heard. Those powerful divine abilities were all destroyed. They couldn't cause any damage to the illusory door of everlasting life at all, because under the influence of the domineering magnetic field, Lin Feng's battle strength would be greatly reduced. The other party's battle strength would be greatly reduced. One side would be weakened, while the other side would be strengthened. The gap was getting bigger and bigger. This battle, naturally, it was a one-sided result. Lin Feng, do you really want to offend so many of us? You have to consider the families behind us. If you go too far, you will have to bear the wrath of our families. Sun Chu said angrily. This guy wanted to threaten Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng wasn't afraid of Sun Chu's threat at all. Lin Feng said indifferently, "When I came to this world, I was worried that there wouldn't be enough enemies. Since you want to be enemies with me, it's just what I want. I'm never afraid of enemies. The more enemies there are, the better, because these enemies are destined to be my stepping stones." Lin Feng's words were truly incomparably domineering. Even Xianyuan Ruhan felt a sense of dizziness. I met the right person. A few words suddenly appeared in Xianyuan Ruhan's mind. Following that, her heartbeat suddenly sped up. Her pretty face couldn't help but blush a little. Bang, bang, bang. At this time, the illusory door of everlasting life pressed down. The group of young masters couldn't withstand the pressure of the illusory door of everlasting life. Flop, flop, flop. Then, the group of young masters all knelt on the ground. Ah, you've gone too far. These young masters' eyes were all blood-red as they glared at Lin Feng. Their eyes flashed with dense killing intent. If looks could kill, these young masters had already used their eyes to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces. Lin Feng didn't care whether these young masters hated him or not. He sneered and said, "I'm bullying you guys. Who asked you to be so weak?" Puffed. A few young masters were so angry that they vomited blood from anger at Lin Feng. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 5419. I say, Aren't you all a little too interested in this? What kind of hobby can't you have? You actually like to spit out blood when you have nothing better to do. I really admire you for being able to spit out 3 liters of blood and still look so lively. Lin Feng cupped his fists at the young masters who were still spitting out blood. Puffed. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the people who had stopped spitting out blood once again started coughing up blood. As for the young masters who hadn't spat out blood before, after hearing Lin Feng's words, they felt the urge to spit out blood as well. Xiao Zichen said, "Brother Lin, we're all friends here. Don't you think you've gone too far by humiliating us like this?" Xiao Zichen was clearly pretending to be a good person. He was trying to mediate the situation. However, he wasn't personally involved. He was just a bystander the entire time. This fellow was truly an extremely intelligent fellow. He had completely removed himself from the situation. No matter which side was in trouble, it had nothing to do with him. Xiao Zichen wanted to play dirty. Lin Feng wanted to play dirty with him. Lin Feng said, "Brother Xiao, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but you've seen it for yourself. These people openly disobeyed the terms of the bet, which is why things have turned out this way. You can't blame me for this, right?" Xiao Zichen had long since cursed Lin Feng in his heart. However, he couldn't show it on the surface. He said, "The previous bet was actually a little thoughtless, but no one calmed down enough to think about it. Brother Lin, you know that they're all reputable people. If they really run naked in Xianwen City, it won't just be them who'll lose face. It'll also include their clan's faces. At that time, their lives will be over. Brother Lin, how about you give me some face and find a compromise to deal with this matter?" Lin Feng smiled. "Since Brother Xiao brought this up, I must give you face. However, even if I give you face, I don't know if these people will accept your kindness." "I believe they will," Xiao Zichen said with a fake smile. "All right, since that's the case, we'll follow Brother Zhao's suggestion and find a compromise to deal with this matter," Lin Feng said with a smile. Hearing this, the group of young masters couldn't help but let out a long sigh. They were finally able to relax a little, because she didn't need to run naked anymore. If he really went to Xianwen City to run naked, it would be better to just kill them. "I wonder how Brother Lin plans to deal with them?" Xiao Zichen asked. "They're all young masters of aristocratic families with extraordinary backgrounds. They're all extremely wealthy. Unlike me, who has just entered this world and is a rogue cultivator. My greatest wish is to have my own house in the city." Lin Feng sighed and said, making himself sound extremely pitiful. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the group of people simply wanted to curse out loud. Lin Feng was rich. He was too rich. It was the high-grade immortal stones that were paid to them as compensation for killing their mounts. Lin Feng took out close to 1 billion high-grade immortal stones. He didn't even blink. These young masters didn't know exactly how rich Lin Feng was. However, now Lin Feng was actually crying about being poor in front of them. They should be the ones crying about being poor, right? The group of young masters wailed in their hearts, but they didn't dare to say anything. Lin Feng looked at the group of young masters and revealed a smile that he thought was very handsome. When Xianyuan Ruhen saw Lin Feng's smile, she felt that it was a demonic smile. She couldn't help but mutter to herself. She didn't know how Lin Feng was going to deal with these people, but she could imagine. When the time came, it would definitely make them go crazy. Lin Feng said, "Tell your servants to go back, and tell them that if you want to regain your freedom, your families will need to pay immortal stones to redeem you. 1 billion high-grade immortal stones for each of you. If your families don't pay, I'll beat you half to death, strip you naked, throw you into prison wagons, and parade you through the streets of Xianwen City." After hearing Lin Feng's words, the group of young masters almost fainted. 1 billion high-grade immortal stones. That was too much. They had never seen so many high-grade immortal stones in their lives. Lin Feng actually asked for 1 billion high-grade immortal stones. He really dared to ask for that. 8 billion per person, 14 people, will be 14 billion high-grade immortal stones. Lin Feng, do I have a share? Xianyuan Ruhan was instantly excited. She stared at Lin Feng with her big eyes. Of course. Lin Feng smiled. Lin Feng, you're going too far. Killing people is nothing. We don't have any immortal stones. Just kill us. One of the young masters said fiercely, Fine. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Lin Feng sneered. He raised his right hand. He was going to kill this young master. The young master's expression changed greatly. He didn't really care about his life. He was just a bit stubborn. When he saw that Lin Feng was really going to kill him, the young master cried out in terror, Spare me! Spare me! I don't want to die! I don't want to die! Coward! Lin Feng couldn't help but curse. Xianyuan Ruhan laughed. Lin Feng, you really do have the innate quality of a villain. You're basically a heinous villain who bullies the weak. Ha 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 ha. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Kind people get bullied. Kind horses get ridden. But before you bully others, you have to see if you have the ability to do so. Don't let others use you like a tool. When he heard Lin Feng say this, Xiao Zichen couldn't help but frown slightly. A few of the young masters were also pondering the meaning of Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng looked at the young master's servants and said, Go inform their clans to come and ransom them. The servants didn't dare hesitate. They hurriedly left. Lin Feng cast a restriction and directly sealed these fellows. Although the group of young masters didn't continue to kneel on the ground, because they were sealed by Lin Feng, they stood in place and couldn't move. If someone wanted to save them, at that time, the restriction would launch a counterattack. At this moment, the guards of the hunting ground caught all the escaped prisoners. They caught a total of more than 300 prisoners. The boss of the hunting ground was a middle-aged man. To be able to open a hunting ground, his background was definitely not simple. The boss of the hunting ground had seen everything that had happened before. The boss of the hunting ground knew that Lin Feng wasn't someone to be trifled with. When he came to Lin Feng, he cupped his fists and said, Lin Gongzi, let me introduce myself. This humble one is called Wang Yu, the boss of the hunting ground. Hello, Boss Wang. Lin Feng cupped his fists in return. According to the rules of the hunting ground, the person who spent the money is the master of the slaves. Previously, the slaves that were released were basically shot to death, and their remains were taken care of by the hunting ground. But this time, only a portion of them were shot to death, and more than 300 survived. How would you like to deal with them? Young master, Wang Yu asked. Sogu's website. Chapter 54:20. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. He hadn't thought about this before. The reason why he saved those people was because Lin Feng had a kind heart. He didn't want to see them being shot like animals. That was a human life, not a beast's life. A human life shouldn't be so cheap. Lin Feng had always maintained a kind heart. In the world of cultivators, this seemed to be a rather stupid thing. But so what? Lin Feng didn't care. Lin Feng felt that he should follow his heart and do things. It was as if he was doing his best to help those people. Perhaps if he did this, he would be scolded as a hypocrite, a saint, or something like that. Let those people say whatever they want. Wang Yu saw that Lin Feng was deep in thought. He knew that Lin Feng didn't know how to deal with these people. Wang Yu said, Young master, do you not know how to deal with these people? If you feel that it's difficult, you can sell them to our hunting ground. When the time comes, we will definitely give you a more reasonable price. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He asked, when the time comes, they will still become prey. They will become targets for others to hunt. Am I right? After hearing Lin Feng's words, Wang Yu fell silent. Lin Feng was right. The situation was indeed like this. Although it sounded cruel, but this world was just that cruel. Bloody, dark. It was filled with death and killing. Lin Feng said, I want to see them. Sure. Wang Yu said. Those slaves were all at the foot of the mountain, being watched by a group of guards. Many people's faces were pale, and they looked terrified. Lin Feng looked at Xianyuan Ruhan. Zi asked, Are you coming too? Xianyuan Ruhan nodded. Accompanied by Wang Yu, she flew down the mountain with Lin Feng. Very soon, they arrived at the foot of the mountain, seeing those sallow and emaciated slaves with ragged clothes. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. In the world of cultivators, there were too many people like them. His fate was incomparably tragic, and it made people feel extremely pitiful. Sometimes, fate was such a bastard. People couldn't help but want to curse out loud. But life had to go on. I can give you your freedom, Lin Feng said. Those people looked at Lin Feng. There was no desire for freedom in his eyes. There was only confusion and the fear of the unknown. Freedom is too extravagant for them. They can't live alone. Wang Yu said. Lin Feng could not help but frown slightly. He couldn't help but ponder. In fact, Lin Feng also felt that Wang Yu's words were very reasonable. These people, he really couldn't survive on his own. Especially in the world where time was reversed, they had no money and could not enter the ancient city. They could only live outside. However, when the darkness came, how many people could survive in the darkness? Perhaps he only needed one night. These people, they would die one after another. Sir, if we leave them here, they might be able to live a little longer. Wang Yu said. Xianyuan Ruhan said, Our peerless cliff will accept these people. Peerless cliff will accept them? Lin Feng looked at Xianyuan Ruhan. Xianyuan Ruhan said, Of course, our peerless cliff's business is so big that we need some servants everywhere. We can arrange for them to be servants in the various businesses or shops under Peerless Cliff. Although it will be a little tough, it is still a livelihood. Lin Feng said, That's great. After the slaves heard the conversation between Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan, they revealed expressions of disbelief. Were they going to welcome a new life? Originally, their eyes were lifeless, but now it was different. Their eyes gradually lit up because they saw hope. What was the most terrifying thing in life? Sometimes it might not be death, but there was no hope. Without hope, one would live like a walking corpse. Only with hope. Only then would one be able to live with a goal. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and thank Lin Gongzi and Fairy Xianyuan. Wang Yu said, Thank you, Lin Gongzi and Fairy Xianyuan. Bodhisattva, bless you. Good people will be rewarded. The group of people knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan. Get up, Lin Feng said. After hearing Lin Feng's words, they got up one by one. Boss Wang, I'll have to trouble you to make arrangements for them. When we leave, we'll bring them back with us. Lin Feng looked at Wang Yu. Don't worry, sir. I'll make arrangements for them. Now, I'll have someone bring them to the restaurant for a meal. Wang Yu said, That's good too. Lin Feng nodded. Then, he and Xianyuan Ruhan returned to the platform on the mountain. Xianyuan Ruhan said, You're different from others. How am I different? Lin Feng asked. You like making trouble for yourself. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng said, I don't like it. Xianyuan Ruhan said, If you don't like it, why do you have to do it? Lin Feng said, I don't want to see blood. That's a really lame reason. Xianyuan Ruhan pursed her lips. Lin Feng didn't say anything else. He found a place to close his eyes and rest. Those people's families. They weren't good people. When the time came, how could they give in so easily? Lin Feng had to adjust his state of mind. Then, he had to deal with all kinds of sudden changes. At the same time, the servants brought the news back. The powers behind those young masters often had businesses in a huge ancient city like Xianwen City. Moreover, their businesses weren't small, so they all had offices. Normally, there would be at least an elder-level existence in the main city. So, when the forces behind them found out about the whole story, they were shocked. They were so angry that their bodies trembled. Preposterous. They've gone too far. The higher-ups were furious. Then, they brought people and charged out of the city. At that moment, a piece of news quickly spread through Xianwen City under the influence of some people with intentions. More than 10 young masters from top-tier powers had made a bet with someone. In the end, they lost the bet and were extorted for 1 billion high-tier immortal stones. The identities of those young masters were also exposed. Some of them were from top-tier powers. When the news spread, it caused a huge uproar. Some people went to the powers where those young masters were from to find out more. On the way, they saw the experts of those powers leading people out. This matter was basically confirmed. Thus, the news spread faster and faster, wider and wider. Many people formed groups and rushed out. Clearly, they wanted to go and watch the show. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 54:21. They're here. Lin Feng opened his eyes. Xianyuan Ruhan looked into the distance. Sure enough, she saw many people flying over. Xianyuan Ruhan immediately became excited. She said, "Once you get the immortal stones, run away. These guys won't be able to do anything to you." Isn't that exciting? Lin Feng smiled. It sounds exciting, but I won't run away. I'll fight against strong cultivators to improve my cultivation. I'll break through to the next cultivation layer as quickly as possible. That's what I want to do. Act according to your strength. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng said, "I'll see how it goes." When the group of young masters saw their clans arrive, they became restless, as if they wanted to escape. Lin Feng said indifferently, "You want to escape with your magic sealed? Do you think I'm a decoration? Stay here obediently and don't run. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." When they heard Lin Feng's threat, they were furious, but they didn't dare say anything. They knew that Lin Feng was someone who could do anything. Although he was young, he was ruthless enough. The restless hearts of the group of people quieted down again. Xiao Zichen had been watching the show the whole time. He wanted to see how Lin Feng would resolve the situation, if it was possible. Xiao Zichen. He didn't mind adding insult to injury. Of course, everything depended on how things would turn out. It didn't take long for the experts from the 14 major forces to arrive with many people. There were even more people watching the show. It was a sea of people. This made Boss Wang of the hunting ground overjoyed. This was free publicity for his hunting ground. "Kid, are you the one who sealed them?" said an old man coldly looking at Lin Feng. His eyes were twinkling with ice-cold energies. "It's Sima Hongyi. He's the person in charge of the Sima clan in Xianwen City. He's one of the top 5 elders in the Sima clan. He's very powerful." Someone in the crowd recognized the old man and couldn't help but say, "Sima family." It was an illustrious force that was said to be close to Futian Cave. The current Sima clan head's official wife was said to be a woman from the Futian Cave. Moreover, she seemed to be the daughter of one of the higher-ups of Futian Cave. Lin Feng came to Xianwen City to watch the battle between the Red World Fairy and Qin Ingtian. The second reason was to find Xian Chenzi of the Futian Cave. For now, Lin Feng still had no news of Xian Chenzi. Did you bring the immortal stones? Hand over the 1 billion high-grade immortal stones, and you can take him away. Lin Feng said indifferently. Upon hearing Lin Feng's words, Sima Hongyi's eyes were filled with killing intent. A junior. He actually dared to blackmail him. This infuriated Sima Hongyi. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Brat, do you know what you're doing? Hurry up and release him before he makes a big mistake. Maybe there's still room for negotiation. Otherwise, there's no room for negotiation. Sima Hongyi said coldly. Lin Feng ignored Sima Hongyi. He looked at the group of young masters and asked, "Who's from the same clan as that old man?" "It's me." A young master stepped forward. This young master was called Sima Qingsang. He was the great-great-grandson of the great elder of the second main branch of the Sima clan. He thought that Lin Feng was afraid. He said proudly, "Are you afraid now? Since you're afraid, let me go." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng waved his sleeve. An invisible force slammed into his body. Wah! Sima Qingsang couldn't help but vomit blood. His face turned as pale as a sheet. That attack, just now, the damage done to him was too severe. He had already fainted when he fell to the ground. After seeing this scene, many people couldn't help but gasp. Lin Feng's response was too violent. It was a slap to Sima Hongyi's face. "Brat, you're digging your own grave." Sima Hongyi roared angrily. Lin Feng sneered and said, "I don't have a good temper, and I hate it when people threaten me. So, it's best if you don't threaten me. Who knows what I'll do if I'm impulsive?" Sima Hongyi had wanted to say something else. However, after hearing Lin Feng's words, he decided to shut up. Sima Hongyi shut his mouth. Lin Feng said, "Pay the ransom or collect their corpses." "Third elder, save me." "Grandfather, save me." "Seventh grandpa, save me." "13th uncle, save me. I don't want to die." Many people looked at the experts from their clans and shouted for help. They didn't think that Lin Feng was lying. Lin Feng really dared to kill them. Therefore, they were naturally afraid. "Brat, you should know that you've offended 14 factions. Do you think you can leave alive after taking the money?" One of the experts said coldly. Lin Feng said, "You don't have to worry about that." The experts from the 14 factions looked gloomy. They began to communicate with each other using their divine senses. "There's no harm in giving it to him. This place has been completely sealed. He won't be able to escape. In that case, give it to him. After we capture him, we can return it to its rightful owner. After we capture this brat, I'll cut off his flesh piece by piece. I'll make him suffer a fate worse than death." After some discussion, they came to an agreement. That was give the immortal stones to Lin Feng. A cultivator called Zhang Yinfeng said coldly, "Fine, we'll give you the immortal stones." After hearing Zhang Yinfeng's words, the crowd burst into an uproar. The 14 top forces had actually submitted. It was unbelievable. However, many people quickly understood what was going on. Lin Feng had offended 14 factions. Even if he got the immortal stones, would he have the life to spend them? Of course, the people who were watching the show were all very interested in what was happening in front of them. They were quite hopeful that some new changes would occur. It wasn't that they hoped that Lin Feng would be able to escape. Instead, they hoped that today's events would be more complicated. This way, they would be able to enjoy the show even more. The experts from the 14 factions took out their immortal stones. Rivers of immortal stones flew towards Lin Feng. A total of 14 billion high-tier immortal stones. Lin Feng put away the high-tier immortal stones. Then he waved his hand. The 14 young masters flew out. Someone from their clan caught them. The 14 peak experts from the 14 factions all flew towards Lin Feng. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. Those strong cultivators were determined to kill Lin Feng. Chapter 54:22. Kid, have you thought about how you want to die? Sima Hong sneered as he looked at Lin Feng, his eyes flashing with killing intent. He wanted to kill Lin Feng. He didn't even try to hide his killing intent towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. Cut the crap. I was just looking for someone to sharpen my cultivation. You guys are not bad opponents. Arrogant, an expert scolded coldly. In their eyes, Lin Feng was too arrogant. Let's do it. There's no need to talk so much with this kid, another expert said. Although these people were strong, they were extremely cautious. They felt that Lin Feng might have some hidden trump cards. That was why he dared to provoke them. Otherwise, why would Lin Feng do this? Lin Feng didn't look like a fool. Boom, boom. Terrifying energy waves were emitted from the bodies of the experts. Sensing the energy waves emitted from their bodies, Yi Shiwen felt the energy waves emitted from their bodies. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show were shocked. Among those experts, there were even existences at the quasi-sage level. There were at least 2 of them who were as strong as this. As for the other 12, all of them were sky immortals. With so many experts using their divine abilities together, the aura emitted from their bodies, it was enough to shock anyone. Therefore, in the eyes of the spectators, Lin Feng couldn't possibly fight against these terrifying existences. Even Xianyuan Ruhan's heart couldn't help but beat faster. Xianyuan Ruhan looked at Lin Feng and said, Can you do it? Those guys are too strong. Why don't you run? If you don't run now, you won't be able to escape later. Lin Feng said, Of course I'm fine. I'll show you how strong I am later. Actually, Lin Feng wasn't bragging. Lin Feng, who had broken through to the sky immortal realm, couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Lin Feng's cultivation was now extremely strong. It could be described as unfathomable. Of course, although Lin Feng's battle prowess was strong. However, the other party had the advantage in numbers. So Lin Feng had to be cautious. At this moment, all kinds of powerful divine abilities condensed and blasted towards Lin Feng. Those divine abilities contained the power to destroy the world. Such power, it was truly shocking. Devour. Facing the attacks of the 14 experts, Lin Feng crossed his arms in front of him. A huge black vortex appeared. The huge black vortex seemed to have the power to distort time and space. It was unimaginably terrifying. The black vortex was formed by Lin Feng's devouring martial spirit. It could devour everything. When all kinds of powerful attacks arrived, they were all swallowed up by Lin Feng's devouring vortex. So powerful! Xianyuan Ruhan shouted excitedly. The spectating cultivators were visibly moved by this development as well. The combat strength that Lin Feng displayed was indeed too heaven-defying. Moreover, Lin Feng was so young. Wasn't this a little too unbelievable? The 14 experts also had expressions of disbelief on their faces. If a powerful quasi-saint had come, he would have been able to dissolve their attacks. Perhaps they wouldn't have been too shocked. But Lin Feng, he was just a young cultivator. Even if he was powerful, how powerful could he be? But what was the reality? Lin Feng had easily dissolved their attacks. No, to be precise, he should have easily devoured their attacks. In a way, unprecedentedly powerful, he had devoured their attacks. Lin Feng's methods were simply too overbearing. Now it's my turn to attack, Lin Feng said with a cold smile. Lin Feng began to walk forward in the void. The power of reincarnation is eternal. The power of karma is eternal. Reincarnation creates the immortal great Tao of reincarnation. Karma creates the order between heaven and earth. When the wheel of reincarnation rotates gently, The world will change. The gate of karma descends from the sky, able to change the fate of all things. Come out, wheel of reincarnation, gate of karma. The combination of the great reincarnation technique and the great karma technique. This was a method that Lin Feng had discovered by himself. As Lin Feng's cultivation increased, this method was also becoming more and more powerful. The power of reincarnation, the power of karma, it filled heaven and earth. Above the 9 heavens, a wheel of reincarnation was faintly discernible. The wheel of reincarnation was surrounded by the endless power of reincarnation. The wheel of reincarnation moved slightly, as if it could shatter the universe and allow people to enter the world of reincarnation. Bang, 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 along with the sounds of violent collisions. An invisible force swept across the bodies of the 14 powerhouses. The 14 experts were all sent flying. Ah, this is the wheel of reincarnation, summoned by the great reincarnation technique of the 3,000 great Das. But why is the wheel of reincarnation so powerful? Sima Hong roared in disbelief. He had once seen a human expert use the great reincarnation technique. However, Lin Feng's cultivation level was not that high. Even if the wheel of reincarnation he summoned was very powerful, it should not have been able to send all 14 of them flying. Lin Feng sneered. How can you imagine my divine ability? The wheel of reincarnation continued to rotate, and an even more terrifying force attacked the 14 experts. The 14 experts wanted to use their divine ability to block it, but the divine ability released by the wheel of reincarnation was an invisible attack. Therefore, the 14 experts did not know how to block it. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of violent collisions, the 14 experts were sent flying again. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show were completely dumbfounded. The scene before their eyes was simply too unbelievable. But all of this was real. It was a young human cultivator. He was actually able to suppress 14 top-notch experts. At this moment, the gate of karma came down. A terrifying force instantly suppressed the 14 experts. Break! The 14 experts roared at the same time. They wanted to break through the gate of karma suppression, but they soon despaired. Their power was instantly dispersed by the gate of karma. They had no way of breaking through the gate of karma's attack. In the end, the 14 experts were all suppressed by the gate of karma in the void. When he saw Lin Feng deal with the 14 experts so easily, Xiao Zichen's pupils constricted. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show were completely stunned. I originally thought that you would be able to cause me some trouble, but you've disappointed me too much. Dealing with you is simply a waste of my time. Opponents are hard to find. Life is as lonely as snow. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. However, this sentence sounded too pretentious. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. Chapter 5423. When they heard Lin Feng say that his life was as lonely as snow, many people couldn't help but mutter, "Don't be so pretentious." However, even though Lin Feng was pretentious, Lin Feng was too strong. They couldn't say anything else. This was a world where the strong decided everything. Without strength, one could only look up to the strong cultivators. Lin Feng, I'm your diehard fan. Xianyuan Ruhan was a lively person. When she saw Lin Feng suppress 14 strong cultivators, she immediately jumped up and down. That guy is too strong, right? He suppressed so many strong cultivators so easily. He's probably the strongest cultivator below the saints, right? Brother, you're flattering him. I think he's strong, but he's not the strongest cultivator below the saints. After all, some heaven-defying quasi-saints can compete with some saints. That makes sense, said Lin Feng. Many people couldn't help but discuss. "What will it take for you to let us go?" asked a strong cultivator. So many of them had been suppressed by a young cultivator like Lin Feng. It was too humiliating. But what could they do if they weren't strong enough? Simple. Pay the ransom. Lin Feng smiled fiendishly. When they heard that Lin Feng wanted them to pay the ransom, many people's mouths twitched. Not long ago, these people had each taken out 1 billion high-tier immortal stones to ransom the group of young masters captured by Lin Feng. Lin Feng had received 14 billion high-tier immortal stones. Countless people had never seen so many high-tier immortal stones in their lives. But today, they saw it. How could they spend so many high-tier immortal stones? How long had it been? Was Lin Feng going to make a fortune again? "We really don't have any money," the group of big shots said. They were about to cry. Even though they were rich, they couldn't withstand Lin Feng's extortion. "If you don't have money, I'll kill you." Lin Feng said, "Spare us." Their expressions changed as they begged Lin Feng for mercy. "It's useless. I'm determined to be a great demon king. I won't be merciful." Lin Feng curled his lips and said, Many people couldn't help but wail in their hearts. Lin Feng was even more despicable than the great demon king. Did he really have to use money to redeem himself? 1.5 billion each. There's only one chance. If you don't pay up, then leave your life behind. Lin Feng said, "Isn't this too much?" Someone said he was so angry at Lin Feng that he was about to vomit blood. He had just taken out 1 billion, and now he was taking out another one. 5 billion. That would add up to 2. 5 billion. Are your lives not worth as much as the young ones of your clans? Lin Feng asked, "Why not?" Someone said. Someone did not say anything. Fuck, he's willing to throw away his dignity for money. Many cultivators who were watching the show rolled their eyes. Said Lin Feng, "I don't care if your lives are worth anything or not. 1,500,000,000, that's all. We really can't take out so many immortal stones." Someone wanted to cry, but had no tears. Lin Feng also knew that although Xianwen City was the main city, their businesses there were very big. However, they had just taken out 1 billion high-tier immortal stones. Asking them to take out another one. 5 billion high-tier immortal stones would be too difficult for them. Lin Feng said, "Don't you have businesses? You can pledge your businesses to other major powers for money. When you have the money, you can just return the money to them." Lin Feng's method was too ruthless. Many people's faces turned green, but there was nothing they could do. They had no choice but to agree to Lin Feng's method, even if they didn't want to. Lin Feng looked at the crowd and asked, "Is there anyone willing to accept their businesses as collateral?" The Heaven and Earth Trading Company is willing to do it. The Literature Trading Company is willing to do it. The Hunter Trading Company is willing to do it. Many people stepped forward, wanting to do this business. "All right. You can sign the contract now," Lin Feng said. The group of experts had no choice but to sign a pledge contract with some trading companies. Those trading companies then transferred over a large amount of immortal stones to them. 14 experts each spent 1.5 billion high-tier immortal stones to redeem their freedom. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng earned another 21 billion high-tier immortal stones. Including the 14 billion high-tier immortal stones from before, Lin Feng earned a total of 35 billion high-tier immortal stones. Everyone knew how difficult it was to earn immortal stones. However, Lin Feng had extorted 35 billion high-tier immortal stones from 14 major powers in a short period of time. It had to be said, he was too ruthless. However, other cultivators wouldn't dare to use such a method. They would offend so many powers. If they didn't have enough power, wasn't that just courting death? "Lin Feng, what about me? Xianyuan Ruhan asked excitedly. Lin Feng casually took out 100 million high-tier immortal stones and gave it to Xianyuan Ruhan. Hee, so many immortal stones. Xianyuan Ruhan was instantly overjoyed. They hadn't done anything. Instead, they'd earned 100 million high-tier immortal stones. This was naturally something to be happy about. Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan left with their 300 servants. The cultivators of the 14 powers left as well. This place, they didn't have the face to stay here any longer. The cultivators who'd come to watch the show also dispersed. After returning to the Xianyuan Trading Company, Xianyuan Ruhan told Xianyuan Zixuan to make arrangements for these people. Although Xianyuan Zixuan hadn't gone to watch the show, he was still extremely well informed. He'd already heard about what had happened at the hunting ground. As for Lin Feng's ability to cause trouble, Xianyuan Zixuan could only smile bitterly. I have a feeling that they won't let you off so easily. Should we go out and hide? Xianyuan Ruhan said. She was actually starting to worry about Lin Feng's safety. Lin Feng laughed. You're worried about me. Are you interested in me? Go to hell. Who's interested in you? Xianyuan Ruhan snorted lightly, but her beautiful face turned somewhat red. What was she thinking? No one knew. Lin Feng didn't continue teasing Xianyuan Ruhan. Instead, he said, they don't have any saints in Xianwen City. If they did, they would have attacked me long ago. Even if they sent a message back, it would take a long time. Those saints would also need a long time to arrive. By that time, I would have already left Xianwen City. It seems like you've already guessed everything. That's why you're extorting them, right? Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng smiled and didn't dwell on the topic. Then he looked at Xianyuan Ruhan with a smile and said, I've been your shield this time. How are you going to thank me? Xianyuan Ruhan said, You've already earned more than 30 billion high-tier immortal stones. If you hadn't been my shield, how could you have earned so many high-tier immortal stones? You should be the one thanking me. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. He felt that Xianyuan Ruhan's skin was really thick. End of chapter. Chapter 54-24. I earned those immortal stones with my own ability, okay? Lin Feng said. 50% of the credit goes to me. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel speechless. He could tell that Xianyuan Ruhan's meaning was very clear. There was no way he could get anything from her. Lin Feng said, If you have any problems in the future, don't come looking for me. Forgive me for being unable to help you. Don't. We've had a good time working together this time. Xianyuan Ruhan said, You're too dishonest. Lin Feng said, All right. What benefits do you want? As long as it's within my power, I'll do my best to satisfy you. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng smiled evilly. You can do it, said Lin Feng. When Xianyuan Ruhan saw Lin Feng's gaze, she couldn't help but feel apprehensive. She had the feeling that Lin Feng was looking at her with evil intentions. Said Xianyuan Ruhan, Your gaze is too evil. Tell me, what are you planning? Lin Feng said, You've wronged me. Am I that kind of person? Yes, Xianyuan Ruhan said bluntly. Actually, my request is very simple. Lin Feng said, Tell me. Xianyuan Ruhan looked at Lin Feng cautiously. It's too boring to sleep alone at night. I want to sleep with you in my arms. Lin Feng said, In your dreams. Xianyuan Ruhan glared fiercely at Lin Feng, then kicked at Lin Feng. But Lin Feng reacted quickly and easily dodged Xianyuan Ruhan's kick. Then he instantly arrived beside Xianyuan Ruhan and put her on his shoulder. Put me down. Hurry up and put me down. Xianyuan Ruhan struggled. I won't. Lin Feng smiled. You're shameless. You bastard. "You pervert," Xianyuan Ruhan cursed. "Thank you for the compliment," Lin Feng replied with a smile. Xianyuan Ruhan was about to lose to Lin Feng. She had met such a shameless man like Lin Feng. It drove her crazy. "Hurry up and save me." When Xianyuan Ruhan saw the guards and servants in the distance, she cried out for help. Those people all had strange expressions on their faces. They had seen Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan leave intimately. She knew that Lin Feng and Xianyuan Ruhan were lovers. Now, they saw Lin Feng carrying Xianyuan Ruhan on his shoulders. Naturally, she thought that it was a flirting between a young couple. Therefore, they didn't dare to go over at this time. If he were to disturb the two of them, he would be in trouble. Who knew if he would be punished at that time? Thus, the group of people who heard Xianyuan Ruhan's cry for help pretended not to hear anything. Furthermore, he ran away like a puff of smoke. Xianyuan Ruhan said furiously, "You bastards! I'll definitely fire you in the future." Xianyuan Ruhan was carried back to her room by Lin Feng. Just when Xianyuan Ruhan thought that the demon king Lin Feng was about to snatch away her most precious thing, Lin Feng put Xianyuan Ruhan down, then smiled and said, "I was just joking with you. Why are you making such a fuss?" "You're saying that you were just joking with me?" Xianyuan Ruhan asked. "Yes. What else do you think? Could it be that you really thought that I would do something to you?" Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. "Die." This time, Xianyuan Ruhan successfully kicked Lin Feng's leg, then angrily rushed out the door. She left behind a confused Lin Feng. He didn't know what Xianyuan Ruhan was up to. After Xianyuan Ruhan left, Lin Feng planned to go into seclusion for a while. It was rare for him to have this free time. Lin Feng wanted to refine the culinary fiend's quintessence. Although it was only a quarter of the culinary fiend's quintessence, it should be able to greatly increase his cultivation, right? Previously, Lin Feng had just broken through. His foundation wasn't stable, so he hadn't been able to refine the culinary fiend's quintessence. But now, he didn't have to worry about that, because it had been some time since he had broken through. After this period of consolidation and the tempering of some great battles, he had become much stronger. His foundation had stabilized. He could continue to break through. Lin Feng entered the space-time continuum. After taking out the culinary fiend's quintessence, he began to refine it. It took him 3 days to refine the god-eating demon's origin. Lin Feng discovered that the culinary fiend's quintessence was quite effective. Lin Feng's cultivation had risen from the first heavenly layer to the 4th heavenly layer of the sky immortal realm. He'd broken through 3 levels in a row. One had to know how powerful Lin Feng's accumulations were. How difficult would it be to break through? Therefore, it wasn't easy for Lin Feng to break through to the next cultivation layer. And this time, he'd broken through 3 levels in a row. Lin Feng was in a good mood. He went into seclusion in the space-time continuum for a period of time before coming out. After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, 10 days had passed in the outside world. When she saw Lin Feng come out, Xianyuan Ruhan asked, "What have you been doing all this time?" "Cultivating in seclusion, of course," Lin Feng said. Xianyuan Ruhan handed a storage ring to Lin Feng. "What's this?" Lin Feng asked. "I've gathered everything you wanted. Now, you can go and repair your ancient ship," Xianyuan Ruhan said. Lin Feng used his divine will to sense it, then smiled. "At least you're a man of your word." Xianyuan Ruhan pursed her lips. "Of course I'm a man of my word." She then continued. That Qin Ning Tian came to Xinhua City. Many people went to see him, and countless people tried to curry favor with him. It was a sensational scene. Is there a need for that? Lin Feng was speechless. Of course there's a need. Qin Ingtian is a favorite of the Lord of the 33 Heavens. Everyone says that when the Lord of the 33 Heavens abdicates, Qin Ingtian might become the new Lord of the Heavens. That's why there are so many people trying to curry favor with Qin Ingtian. The celestial world is an extraordinary world. Xianyuan Ruhan said. You went to see him too? Lin Feng asked. Of course. Xianyuan Ruhan nodded. That Qin Ingtian is very handsome. Is he more handsome than me? Lin Feng asked. Sogu. Chapter 54:25. Fujian Cave was one of the 4 most powerful forces in the eastern region. Naturally, they had a huge business in Xianwen City. Xianwen City, east, west, north, south, and central, each had a trading company. The trading company in the central region was the most important and also the best. Xian Qinzi's mother was the vice master of Fujian Cave. Xian Qinzi's identity was naturally extremely extraordinary. After coming to Xianwen City, he was considered half the master of Fujian Cave. Inside the room, Xian Qinzi was studying the mysterious iron box. He had tried to open it several times, but he had almost been robbed because of it. Xian Qinzi knew how terrifying the mysterious iron box was. So, he knew that he had to be careful with the mysterious iron box. However, although there was no way to control the mysterious iron box, every time Xian Qinzi faced the mysterious iron box, he would be very excited, because Xian Qinzi knew the more shocking the secret of the mysterious iron box was, the more helpful it would be to him after he completely mastered the mysterious iron box. This was a relationship that complemented each other. While Xian Qinzi was studying the mysterious iron box, Lin Feng came to the Central Trading Company of Fujian Cave. Behind the Central Trading Company of Fujian Cave was a huge house. According to Xianyuan Ruhan, Xian Qinzi lived inside. Tao Tai also knew about this news and came with Lin Feng. Xianyuan Ruhan was naturally involved in this kind of lively matter. Xianyuan Ruhan said with a smile, You're not thinking of barging in, are you? Let me tell you, Fujian Cave is an extremely terrifying force, especially good at formations. If you dare to barge in and get trapped in the formation, it will be extremely dangerous. Lin Feng said, It's okay, I'm least afraid of formations. You're bragging. Xianyuan Ruhan curled her lips and said, Lin Feng was indeed powerful. Xianyuan Ruhan also admitted this. But formations and cultivation were different. Formations required a lot of time to study. So, those formation grandmasters were often a group of very old cultivators. Lin Feng was too young. How could his attainments in the field of formations be too profound? It was simply unrealistic. It was no wonder Xianyuan Ruhan. They felt that Lin Feng was bragging. Lin Feng didn't explain anything. Wait a minute. The result would be clear. Lin Feng took out his epic war spear and flew towards Fu Tian Cave's encampment. Who are you? How dare you barge into Fujian Grotto's base? Are you tired of living? Many guards looked coldly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. There was no need to show mercy to the enemy. Lin Feng swept his epic war spear over. A world-destroying wave of energy surged out. Dazzling spear lights flew out one after another. Puff! A tearing sound could be heard. One after another, the guards were killed on the spot. Someone killed the guards of the Fujian Grotto. Audacious! How audacious! That guy must be tired of living, right? That's why he's courting death. After seeing Lin Feng kill the guards of the Fujian Grotto, many people on the street couldn't help but discuss. They were extremely shocked and couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was no wonder that they were so shocked. The Fujian Grotto was a force that no one dared to provoke. But today, someone actually came to kill them. It was really unbelievable. The news spread very quickly, and a large number of people rushed over to watch the show. Exciting. This is really exciting. Xianyuan Ruhan's beautiful face was full of excitement. She had a personality that wished for the world to be in chaos. Now that she saw such a scene, naturally, she felt incomparably excited and excited. At this time, Lin Feng had already killed his way into the mansion. "Who is it? How dare you behave so atrociously in my Fuqian Grotto's encampment?" An angry shout could be heard. A large number of guards rushed over. The leader was a middle-aged man with a blood-red blade in his hand. It's the bloody blade, venerable. He's a powerful existence. It's said that he broke through to the sky immortal realm a long time ago. He was originally an evil cultivator, and his blade was stained with the blood of countless people. But later on, he joined the Fuqian Grotto and was given an important position. Now, he's the commander of the guards of the Fuqian Grotto's Xianwen City. Among the cultivators who were watching the show, an old man spoke up. Obviously, he knew the cultivator who spoke. "Even a sky immortal realm powerhouse has come out. That kid doesn't even have 200 years of life. He's going to die. That's right. I think he'll be skinned alive later." Many people were whispering to each other. The people who were watching the show didn't think highly of Lin Feng. They felt that Lin Feng would definitely die this time. It was no wonder that they thought so. One person, one spear. They killed their way to the Fuqian Grotto's encampment. How could they fight against the experts of the Fuqian Grotto? Lin Feng looked indifferent and asked, "Where's Xian Chenzi? Tell him to come out." "Xian Chenzi? Isn't that the son of the vice leader of the Fuqian Grotto? It seems like that kid has a grudge against Xian Chenzi. I heard that Xian Chenzi has only been in Xianwen City for a few days. That kid must have heard that Xian Chenzi came here to seek revenge." "He came to the Fuqian Grotto to seek revenge? Is he stupid?" "That's right. Even if he had 9 lives, it wouldn't be enough." Many people shook their heads and looked at Lin Feng pitifully. "Impudent! Who do you think you are? How dare you call Xian Chenzi by his name?" Bloody Saber Venerable's face darkened as he said coldly, "Since you don't want to tell me, I'll kill my way in. I don't believe that Xian Chenzi won't come out." Lin Feng smiled coldly and rushed towards the venerable cultivator. "Kill him." The venerable cultivator didn't attack. Instead, he ordered the guards to attack Lin Feng. "Die." The guards attacked Lin Feng, one by one. Some of them were experts trained by the Fuqian Grotto, while others were experts recruited by the Fuqian Grotto. They all had their own unique techniques. Someone had unleashed a powerful divine ability. Some people took out powerful magic treasures. These people were many times stronger than the guards standing guard outside. However, in front of Lin Feng, they were like ants. Lin Feng was like a demon. He swept his spear. Billions of spear lights shot out. All the magical weapons and magical powers were destroyed by Lin Feng. After that, all the cultivators were killed by the spear lights. "You're courting death," shouted the venerable cultivator furiously. He jumped forward. Then he attacked Lin Feng with his blade. Lin Feng smiled coldly and took the initiative to attack the Zun cultivator. His spear was aimed at the venerable cultivator's chest. The venerable cultivator swung his blade at Lin Feng's epic war spear. The powerful attack landed on the epic war spear. The epic war spear didn't move. Then there was a piercing sound. Lin Feng's spear pierced through the venerable cultivator's chest. End of chapter. Chapter 54:26. I actually died just like that. Blood Blade Venerable looked at the spear that pierced his chest in disbelief. Before he died, countless images flashed through his mind. For example, when he was young, he was bullied because of his lack of talent. Later, he was taken in by a demonic cultivator. Bloodblade Venerable's cultivation gradually became stronger. He began to bully others. Actually, this kind of thing seemed to be quite common. People who were bullied when they were young would often become the kind of people who bullied others in the future. They would become the kind of people they hated when they were young. Bloodblade Venerable killed countless people, but because his cultivation was not bad, so he had always been free. Until one time, Bloodblade Venerable killed someone from a big power. He was chased by that big power. Bloodblade Venerable originally thought that he would definitely die under that big power's pursuit. But Bloodblade Venerable did not expect that the heavens would always leave a way out. He had actually entered the world of time reversal by chance. Here, Bloodblade Venerable found out. It turned out that the previous him was actually so weak. In this man-eat-man world, where time was reversed, Venerable Bloody Saber crazily slaughtered the cultivators he saw as prey. He plundered all kinds of resources to constantly make himself stronger. But good times did not last long. An evil cultivator, like him who had countless blood on his hands, was destined to be hated by countless forces. So many forces sent experts to chase after Bloodblade Venerable. Bloodblade Venerable joined Fujian Cave. Those forces did not dare to offend Fujian Cave, so they gave up. Venerable Lord Bloody Saber became a guard commander of Fujian Cave. Bloodblade Venerable even looked forward to breaking through to the true immortal realm in the future, or even the Saint Realm. In Fujian Cave, maybe there was really hope, because as long as there was potential, Fujian Cave did not care if you were a direct descendant, a side branch disciple, or a cultivator that was recruited. Fujian Cave would spare no effort to nurture you. But Bloodblade Venerable knew all hope had been cut off today. He did not want to die, but his life was quickly slipping away. Bloodblade Venerable hated. He hated the human cultivator in front of him. At the same time, he hated Xian Chenzi. He hated the human cultivator for killing him, but he hated Xian Chenzi even more for provoking such a powerful existence. If Xian Chenzi did not provoke this existence, he would not die. Bloody Saber Venerable opened his mouth, wanting to say something. However, Lin Feng didn't give him a chance to speak. This was because Lin Feng had directly lifted Venerable Lord Blood Saber into the air with his battle spear. Then his right hand suddenly shook. Bang! Bloody Blade Venerable's body exploded. His body and soul were destroyed on the spot. Dead. Blood Saber Venerable is dead too. He's a celestial immortal. He's not far from breaking through to the true immortal realm, but he was killed just like that. That brat is quite strong. He's most likely a true immortal. So what if he's a true immortal? You're still like an ant in front of Fu Tian Cave. Many people were talking about it. For ordinary people, a cultivator like Venerable Bloodbath was indeed quite powerful. But for Lin Feng, the bloody blade, Venerable was like an ant. What was a mere heavenly immortal? Kid, who the hell are you? You actually came to my Fujian Grotto's base to cause trouble? At this moment, a cold voice sounded. More than 10 cultivators flew out. Those cultivators all had a deep and terrifying aura. Many people couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Those cultivators were definitely true immortals, and some of them were very powerful. The leader is called Zhou Tianyang. He's a beginner sage immortal. Someone said, "What? A sage immortal? That powerful?" Many people couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. There were indeed some sage immortals in the reversed time world. But sage immortals were like phoenix feathers and Chelan horns. They were really too rare. Therefore, a cultivator at the Saint Immortal realm could definitely be called a top expert. Apart from Zhou Tianyang, who's a holy immortal, there are 3 other golden immortal cultivators. Someone continued. Many people were shocked. 1 sage immortal, 3 golden immortals. The rest were all true immortals. These cultivators were too powerful. The guards who had died before were like ants in front of these people. Venerable Lord Bloodsaber was in front of them. He was just a slightly stronger ant. Everyone looked at Lin Feng. Previously, Lin Feng had indeed displayed extraordinary battle strength. But now, facing an even more powerful existence, how could Lin Feng fight against these guys? In many people's eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. Finally, some decent cultivators have appeared. Lin Feng said indifferently, after hearing Lin Feng's words. Many people's mouths couldn't help but twitch violently. So many experts. But Lin Feng said that they were some decent cultivators. Wasn't this tone too big? Did he not put those experts in Fuqian Cave in his eyes? People like Venerable Lord Bloodsaber. He could only be considered a low-level member of Fuqian Cave. Of course, Venerable Lord Bloodsaber was considered a low-level member with a little status. He was a real mid-level member. Those true immortal realm experts. Lin Feng was facing such a person, a high and mighty existence. However, Lin Feng's words towards these people were filled with contempt. No one thought that Lin Feng really had the ability to deal with those experts. Many people thought that Lin Feng was too arrogant and full of himself. With just a little bit of strength, he didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. What a joke! Lord, let me kill this brat. A cultivator in his 30s said. This was a peak Dao Immortal Realm cultivator. Actually, he wasn't young. He had already cultivated for more than 7 million years. Go, Zhou Tianyang said. The Dao Immortal Realm expert quickly charged towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he leaped out and quickly charged towards the Dao Immortal Realm expert. The Dao Immortal Realm expert sneered and directly took out a flying sword to slash towards Lin Feng. That was his natal magic treasure. The Dao Immortal Realm expert activated his natal magic treasure with all his might. His attack. In an instant, it reached the peak. In his opinion, Lin Feng was like an ant. He would definitely be killed by him. That brat is dead, for sure. The cultivators who were watching the show couldn't help but exclaim. They thought so too. Tao Tai had a calm expression. Xianyuan Ruhan became excited as she felt that things were getting more and more lively. Lin Feng swept out with his spear, and the powerful flying sword was swept away by Lin Feng. Then, Lin Feng charged towards the Dao Immortal Realm cultivator. Lin Feng's speed was simply too fast. So fast that no one had recovered from their shock. He had already charged over. Pooh! Lin Feng's spear instantly pierced through the Dao Immortal Realm expert's chest, as if it had pierced through Venerable Lord Bloodsaber's chest. Chapter 54:27. Dead. Dead. Even a peak Dao Immortal expert was killed. That guy is really too savage. Everyone cried out in alarm. The development of the matter. Obviously, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Originally, everyone thought that Lin Feng was definitely going to die. But the reality was not like that. Lin Feng was completely fine. Instead, it was that expert at the peak of the Dao Immortal Realm who was killed. That was the peak of Dao Immortal. Golden Sage. The peak of Dao Immortal took another step forward. That was the Golden Immortal Realm. So, peak Dao Immortal experts were very powerful. He shouldn't have been killed so easily. Damn it. Many experts of Fu Tian Cave could not help but shout angrily, right under their noses. Lin Feng had killed a cultivator at the top of the Dao immortal layer. It was like slapping them in the face. Lord, I'll go kill him. At this time, a golden immortal expert said. This person was called Xianyuan Kuang. His cultivation was very high. His aura was deep and terrifying. Xianyuan Kuang is a 5th-layer golden immortal. Once he enters the golden immortal realm, he will complete his self-transcendence. No matter how strong that kid is, he will definitely not be a match for a golden immortal expert. At this time, a cultivator said, although they could not determine Lin Feng's specific realm, they knew that Lin Feng definitely had not entered the golden immortal realm. Because golden immortal cultivators emitted an immortal golden immortal aura, this kind of aura was easier to determine. It was really too difficult for a cultivator who had not entered the golden immortal realm to fight against a golden immortal. Go, don't let him die too easily, because that will be too easy for him. Zhou Tianyang said. Understood. Xianyuan Kuang nodded. Then he quickly flew towards Lin Feng. Xianyuan Kuang took out a powerful magic treasure. It was a halberd. He held the halberd and sneered at Lin Feng. Kid, you use a spear, I use a halberd, but I will let you know how big the gap between us is. With that, Xianyuan Kuang swung his halberd at Lin Feng. A cold glow was instantly formed. Then, he quickly charged towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he swept his epic war spear over. Clang! Lin Feng's epic war spear collided with Xianyuan Kuang's cold light. A series of clanging sounds could be heard. Xianyuan Kuang's attack was neutralized by Lin Feng. You have some ability. You're qualified to die by my hands. Xianyuan Kuang looked at Lin Feng with disdain. Immediately after, he strode towards Lin Feng. The halberd in his hand pierced towards Lin Feng. The void seemed to be on the verge of shattering, as expected of a golden immortal expert. Their power is too terrifying. Yes, golden immortal cultivators are too strong, especially Xianyuan Kuang. His cultivation level is extremely high, so his attacks are even more terrifying. That kid might not even be able to take one attack. The cultivators who were watching the show all exclaimed. It was no wonder that they didn't think highly of Lin Feng. It was because Xianyuan Kuang's attack was too powerful. Xianyuan Kuang instantly arrived in front of Lin Feng. That terrifying attack was about to pierce through Lin Feng's body. At that moment, Lin Feng moved. Lin Feng moved to the left. He easily dodged Xianyuan Kuang's attack. Xianyuan Kuang's powerful attack instantly pierced through the air. How is this possible? After seeing this scene, many people exclaimed in disbelief. Logically speaking, an expert like Xianyuan Kuang shouldn't have missed his target. However, Xianyuan Kuang's attack missed. This was enough to explain a lot of things. Could it be? Many people thought of a certain possibility. When they thought of that possibility, they couldn't help but be shocked. At that moment, they saw Lin Feng attack again. It was still an extremely simple attack. A spear pierced towards Xianyuan Kuang. Xianyuan Kuang wanted to dodge, but he found that he couldn't. Lin Feng's speed. It was really too fast. It was so fast that Xianyuan Kuang was close to despair. Pooh! A tearing sound suddenly rang out. Xianyuan Kuang's body was pierced by Lin Feng's spear. Then, Lin Feng held the spear in one hand and lifted Xianyuan Kuang into the air. Ah! Xianyuan Kuang let out a miserable cry. He was a golden immortal and had a strong vitality. So even though he suffered such a heavy blow, he still didn't die. It's really like this. Even a golden immortal isn't his match. Too terrifying. Exclamations rose and fell one after another. One cultivator after another looked at Lin Feng in shock. The battle strength that Lin Feng displayed, it was completely beyond their imagination. "Kid, hurry up and let him go. Otherwise, I'll tear you to pieces," Zhou Tianyang shouted coldly after seeing this scene. A golden immortal was a core member of a force. If he was killed, it would be a great loss. "I'm not afraid of being threatened. Today, I'll kill this person. I want to see what you can do to me," Lin Feng replied coldly. Then his right hand suddenly shook. Bang! Following that, Xianyuan Kuang's body directly exploded. Xianyuan Kuang's body and soul were destroyed, and he died on the spot. "Brat, you deserve to die 10,000 times," Zhou Tianyang roared. Of course, although he was angry, although he couldn't wait to kill Lin Feng. However, Zhou Tianyang also knew that Lin Feng wasn't simple. He planned to use the safest method to kill Lin Feng. The safest method was naturally a great array. The power of the Fuqian Caves array was something that everyone in the world knew, especially some of the great arrays recorded in the Fuqian scripture. It could simply kill gods and exterminate immortals. The power was unimaginable. "Activate the great array and kill him," Zhou Tianyang shouted in a deep voice. When Zhou Tianyang's voice fell, the great array in the courtyard was immediately activated. Lines of array, runes interweaved together. Those array runes began to seal the void. After feeling the aura emitted by the array runes, the cultivators who were watching the show couldn't help but be moved. Once the great array of the Fuqian Cave was activated, no one would be able to contend against it. Lin Feng was indeed powerful. However, being trapped by the great array of the Fuqian Cave would probably be extremely dangerous. Even Xianyuan Ruhan's expression couldn't help but change slightly. Xianyuan Ruhan, who was born in a top power, had a far better understanding of the Fuqian Cave than others. It was precisely because she knew more about the Fuqian Cave. That was why Xianyuan Ruhan knew how terrifying Fuqian's great array was. Xianyuan Ruhan shouted loudly, "Lin Feng, take advantage of the fact that the great array hasn't been completely activated and quickly come out. Otherwise, when the great array is completely activated, I'm afraid you won't be able to come out even if you want to." Genius. Remember this site's address in a second. Chapter 5428. Xianyuan Ruhan's worry was naturally reasonable, because Xianyuan Ruhan knew how powerful Fuqian Cave's formation was. Although she knew that Lin Feng was powerful, she couldn't help but be very worried about Lin Feng's safety. Lin Feng revealed a confident smile and said, "Don't worry. Soon you will know that breaking these formations is just a matter of a snap of my fingers for me." Arrogant, Zhou Tianyang couldn't help but shout coldly. Fuqian Cave's formation was tyrannical, but Lin Feng's words seemed to be full of disdain. Zhou Tianyang was naturally extremely angry. The cultivators who were watching the show also felt that Lin Feng's words were too arrogant. He actually dared to not put Fuqian Cave's formation in his eyes. They didn't know where Lin Feng's confidence came from. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, waves of terrifying fluctuations surged out. It was a large formation. They launched an attack on Lin Feng. All kinds of destructive attacks instantly flooded towards Lin Feng. Zhou Tianyang and the others revealed a cruel expression. In their opinion, Lin Feng couldn't resist the power of the large formation. The cultivators who were watching the show, they also shook their heads. Perhaps in those people's opinion, Lin Feng would definitely die without a burial place this time. Be careful. Xianyuan Ruhan couldn't help but exclaim, looking at Lin Feng with a worried gaze. Her heart couldn't help but rise. Fuqian Cave's formation was world famous. Lin Feng was trapped by the formation. How could he resist the formation's attack? Xianyuan Ruhan didn't have confidence in her heart. Tao Tai, on the other hand, had a calm expression. Perhaps the only person who had confidence in Lin Feng. It was Tao Tai. When all kinds of terrifying attacks came crashing down, Lin Feng stepped forward in the large formation. Seeing that Lin Feng was about to be drowned by the terrifying attacks, Lin Feng dodged the attack by a hair's breadth. Look, it was truly a close call. Many people felt that Lin Feng must have been extremely lucky to have dodged the attack of the array. Zhou Tianyang and the others also thought so. When the formation released the next wave of attacks, Lin Feng would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, to everyone's disbelief, Lin Feng shuttled back and forth amidst the attacks of the Grand Array. Furthermore, he managed to dodge all of the attacks released by the formation. This scene, it was too unbelievable. Every single person, they all felt a little dizzy. Wow, isn't this guy's mastery of formations too high? Xianyuan Ruhan came back to her senses and immediately exclaimed. Actually, Xianyuan Ruhan knew that Lin Feng had always been studying array formations. He also knew that Lin Feng's attainments in array formations should not be low, but he didn't expect Lin Feng's array formation skills to be so tyrannical. Shuttling in and out of the absolute kill grand formation was as easy as entering an uninhabited land. What kind of method was this? It made people feel dumbfounded. Die. Lin Feng quickly arrived in front of a few true immortal experts and swept the Era War Spear in his hand towards them. Only then did the true immortal cultivators of Fuqian Cave come back to their senses. Then they hurriedly attacked, but facing Lin Feng's attack, their resistance was completely useless. Lin Feng himself was already terrifying enough. Not to mention that Lin Feng was now using the Era War Spear, a supreme treasure. The current Lin Feng, he was simply killing gods and Buddhas. No one could stop Lin Feng. Buffed, the sound of tearing suddenly rang out. The necks of the true immortal experts of Fuqian Cave were torn by Lin Feng's Era War Spear. The true immortal experts of Fuqian Cave were instantly killed. Lin Feng continued to kill the others. Uffed, uffed, uffed. The sound of flesh being torn apart intertwined with the screams of the cultivators. Lin Feng was like a god of death that had walked out of hell. One by one, the experts of Fuqian Cave were killed by Lin Feng. Even if they were golden immortal experts, once they were locked onto by Lin Feng, only death awaited them. There were so many cultivators watching the show outside. At this moment, not a single person made a sound, because at this moment, everyone, they had already been shocked by what they had seen. They were deeply shocked, so much so that they were completely stunned on the spot. In the blink of an eye, other than Zhou Tianyang, more than a dozen true immortal experts, including the 2 golden immortals, all of them were killed by Lin Feng. Too savage. Is he really not 200 years old? Is he still human? No, he's no longer human. He's a god. The crowd that came back to their senses immediately exploded. Everyone was talking about it. More and more people came to watch the show. As more and more people came to watch the show, naturally, many people recognized Lin Feng. This guy is really gutsy. Previously, he extorted tens of billions of high-grade immortal stones from 14 top factions. Now, he's killing his way to Fuqian Cave's territory. What is he trying to do? Some cultivators who recognized Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter inwardly. The news of 14 top factions being extorted tens of billions of high-grade immortal stones had naturally spread throughout Xianwen City. Many people were talking about this matter. Xianwen City was so huge. Only a small portion of people had seen Lin Feng before. There were even fewer people who came to watch the show. Those who recognized Lin Feng didn't say anything. They were all watching silently. They knew how terrifying Lin Feng was. Now that he was facing off against Fujian Cave, there would be a good show to watch. "Brat, I'll definitely kill you," Zhou Tianyang shouted coldly. His weapon was a huge sword. Zhou Tianyang held the huge sword in his hand and charged towards Lin Feng. The huge sword emitted violent energy waves that could shatter heaven and earth. It was definitely a powerful treasure. Zhou Tianyang's magic power. It flowed endlessly into the huge sword. The huge sword became more and more powerful. It became more and more terrifying. A sword light that was hundreds of meters long condensed. It seemed to be able to split open the world. A sage immortal expert. He was indeed powerful. Clang! Lin Feng waved his epic war spear and collided with Zhou Tianyang's huge sword. It was an earth-shattering power. They suddenly collided. The ground cracked. Deng! 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 Lin Feng and Zhou Tianyang couldn't help but take a few steps back. That guy is actually on par with Zhou Tianyang. He's so young, but he has the battle strength of a sage immortal. He's really a heaven-defying existence. Yeah, if he continues to grow, who knows how terrifying he'll become. Many people couldn't help but sigh. Those who had seen Lin Feng defeat the joint attack of 14 top factions, experts sneered in their hearts. What was a mere sage immortal? A quasi-sage expert. Even if he came, he probably wouldn't be able to fight back. Unless he was an extremely heaven-defying quasi-sage. Otherwise, he would definitely die. Genius, 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version, reading website. Chapter 5429. Lin Feng, who was evenly matched with his opponent, was not discouraged because Lin Feng had only displayed a portion of his battle strength. This was Lin Feng's initial state. The so-called initial state referred to the battle strength that Lin Feng displayed when he did not use the ruler's armor and other things. Lin Feng's initial state was relatively the weakest. The strongest state was when Lin Feng used the 15x domineering magnetic field, because the 15x domineering magnetic field could not only increase Lin Feng's battle strength, but it could also weaken the opponent's battle strength. This was extremely frightening. Using the 15x domineering magnetic field, coupled with the ruler's armor, the magic lotus, the golden dwarf, the holy bone, and the stone golem clone, Lin Feng's battle strength would instantly erupt to the peak. It was just dealing with a saint immortal level cultivator. Naturally, there was no need to use those powerful methods. Crazed God Sword technique. Zhou Tianyang could not help but shout out coldly. He slashed towards Lin Feng, one after another. He slashed out 36 times in a row. Every time he slashed out a sword, the power would suddenly soar by a lot. When the power was raised to the peak, Zhou Tianyang launched a peerless attack on Lin Feng. Zhou Tianyang's sword that could destroy heaven and earth. It instantly slashed down. The void was split open. A huge crack appeared on the ground. Many people could not help but exclaim. The power of Zhou Tianyang's sword was really powerful. Epic spear technique, killing gods and demons with a spear. Lin Feng sneered and used the move recorded in the epic spear technique. The epic spear technique and the epic war spear were combined. Lin Feng's battle strength suddenly soared. He was like a god from the era of creation that had descended to the world. A spear swept out. It was as if it could destroy the world. Clang! The sound of a violent collision was suddenly heard. The epic war spear collided with the opponent's huge sword. The power condensed by the huge sword. The power condensed by the epic war spear. It all exploded out in an instant. Everyone saw the huge sword in Zhou Tianyang's hand. It actually left his hand. He had lost. He was defeated by Lin Feng. both hands. He couldn't even pick up his greatsword. Therefore, the giant sword slipped out of his hand. Zhou Tianyang revealed a look of disbelief, followed by a look of horror. Lin Feng's strength. It was beyond his imagination. It was hard to imagine that such a young cultivator could possess such terrifying combat power. How did he do it? Zhou Tianyang knew that if he wanted to live, he had to quickly get away from Lin Feng. Zhou Tianyang had cultivated the Tao of the Void. Therefore, he wanted to escape through the void. However, when Zhou Tianyang used the Tao of the Void to travel through the void and leave, Zhou Tianyang suddenly discovered that the void was actually confined. Oh no! Zhou Tianyang was shocked. The next moment, Zhou Tianyang felt a pain in his neck. Epic war spear. It pierced through Zhou Tianyang's neck. Zhou Tianyang's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. He hadn't expected this. He had actually died, just like that. Lin Feng drew his spear. Zhou Tianyang's corpse fell to the ground. Lin Feng held the epic war spear and continued to walk inside. Dead. Even an expert like Zhou Tianyang is dead. He's really too powerful. That guy is so young, but he's actually so tyrannical. It's been a long time since such a young expert appeared in the human race, right? Who exactly is he? Could he be the son of the ancient Saint Emperor? After a short silence, the crowd suddenly erupted into an earth-shattering sound of venting. At this time, Lin Feng coldly shouted, "Xian Chenzi, I know you're inside. Hurry up and come out to die. If you don't come out, I will definitely make this place bleed like a river." "Impudent, who are you? How dare you come to the Fuqian Caves encampment to cause trouble?" An angry shout was heard. Then, an old man flew out. That old man had the demeanor of a transcendent being, but who knew if he was just fishing for fame? Hong Qitian has come out. He's a terrifying existence. Back then, he failed to break through to the Saint Realm, but he didn't die. It's obvious how strong he is. In recent years, I heard that he's been preparing to break through to the Saint Realm again. Hong Qitian is very powerful. Although he hasn't broken through to the Saint Realm, he won't be at a disadvantage against some low-level saints, another cultivator said. That's right. Although I don't know who that young man is, he's a fierce character. Now that he's fighting against Hong Qitian, I wonder if he can compete with him? Someone couldn't help but ask. He was looking forward to the battle between Lin Feng and Hong Qitian. Those who knew Lin Feng's identity couldn't help but be excited. Hong Qitian wasn't someone ordinary quasi-saints could compare to. Ordinary quasi-saints could only last 10 rounds against Hong Qitian. That was already very difficult. Ordinary quasi-saints weren't Lin Feng's match either. Therefore, if Lin Feng fought against Hong Qitian, it would definitely be an exciting battle. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that I'm here to find Xian Chenzi. Tell him to get the hell out here. Lin Feng said coldly, "You're here to find Xian Chenzi, but you've caused such a huge massacre. You're evil beyond redemption. You're even more evil than the evil cultivators." Hong Qitian said angrily. Lin Feng scolded him. "Shameless old man, if we're talking about evilness, who can compare to the evil cultivators of the Fuqian Cave? You people of the Fuqian Cave are just a bunch of people fishing for fame. On the surface, you're righteous and virtuous, but behind the scenes, you're doing despicable and shameless things." Hong Qitian said angrily, "You dare slander the Fuqian Cave?" Lin Feng sneered and said, "Do I still need to slander the Fuqian Cave? Xian Chenzi took a fancy to one of my treasures and captured my friend. Then he used my friend's life to threaten me. I agreed to exchange it with him, but who would have thought that this person would use the corrosive shadow palm to injure my friend after obtaining the treasure? If I don't kill this person, I swear I'm not human." After hearing Lin Feng's words, many people finally understood how Lin Feng and Xian Qinzi became enemies. Xian Qinzi's actions were indeed too unethical. If you left after obtaining the treasure, although people would still criticize you, at least it wouldn't be an endless hatred, right? You had to use the corrosive shadow palm to injure the other party. Once a cultivator was hit by the corrosive shadow palm, there was no way to deal with it, and they would soon die. Many people thought that Lin Feng's friend would definitely die tragically. Therefore, that was why Lin Feng was so furious. "Don't slander the elites of the Fuqian cave," Hong Qiqian said coldly. "Old man, you must have believed what I said in your heart, right? But you're saying that I'm slandering Xian Qinzi. From this, I can tell that you're just fishing for fame. I don't want to talk to you. Tell Xian Qinzi to get the hell out here and talk to me," Lin Feng said coldly. Humph! At this moment, a cold snort was heard. Everyone saw a white-clothed man walking in the air from the depths of the mansion. He was walking out step by step. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 54:30. It's Xian Qinzi. He's out. That's right, it's really Xian Qinzi. Xian Qinzi isn't a simple person. Although he's only at the sane immortal realm, he's an extremely heaven-defying genius. Therefore, his battle prowess far exceeds his cultivation level. Some low-level saints wouldn't dare to say that they can deal with him. That's right, Xian Qinzi is indeed terrifying. Anyone who dares to look down on him is destined to have a bad ending. Seeing Xian Qinzi come out, many people started to discuss. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't underestimate Xian Qinzi. After all, there were too many geniuses in this world, people who could challenge those of a higher realm. Lin Feng wasn't the only one who had done that. There were such existences. There were many. Xian Qinzi sneered and said, "You should be glad that I didn't kill you back then and didn't continue to cause trouble for me, because if you do, hell will beckon to you." Xian Qinzi's words were quite pretentious. However, this guy was indeed very strong. Therefore, he had the right to be arrogant. Lin Feng sneered and said, "I think you should say these words to yourself. Have you washed your neck clean? If you have, I'll cut your head off from your neck today." "Just you? Are people nowadays as ignorant as you?" Xian Qinzi looked at Lin Feng with a mocking gaze. Lin Feng and Xian Qinzi were at each other's throats. Many people couldn't help but become agitated. Xian Qinzi was a famous peerless genius. He was one of the top geniuses of the younger generation in Futian Grotto. Lin Feng, although they didn't know much about him, most people didn't know who Lin Feng was. But before this, Lin Feng had already displayed an extremely heaven-defying battle prowess. Therefore, this battle was extremely eye-catching. "I heard that there's an arena of life and death here. Once you enter the arena of life and death, unless one of you dies, the arena of life and death will never open. Do you dare to enter the arena of life and death with me?" Lin Feng said coldly. Actually, the reason Lin Feng made this request was because he knew that Xian Qinzi was not easy to deal with. Moreover, Hong Qiqian's cultivation was so high. Perhaps they had a way to escape. If Xian Qinzi were to escape, it would be extremely difficult for him to find or even kill him. Therefore, Lin Feng had to seize this opportunity to kill Xian Qinzi once and for all. "Xian Qinzi, don't agree," Hong Qiqian said in a deep voice. He naturally knew what Lin Feng was up to. In Hong Qiqian's opinion, Xian Qinzi could definitely defeat Lin Feng. However, what if something unexpected happened? Hong Qiqian was a cautious person. He wanted to prevent any accidents from happening. Meanwhile, the surrounding crowd of onlookers was in an uproar. This was because Lin Feng's request clearly indicated that he wanted to fight Xian Qinzi to the death. This was going to be exciting. Existences at this level could only unleash their most powerful combat strength when they were fighting to the death. Only then could they show everyone the most exciting battle. After all, they were just here to watch the show. This matter had nothing to do with them. Therefore, naturally, the more exciting it was, the better. Why? You don't dare? Lin Feng sneered at Xian Qinzi. He said mockingly, "Where did your arrogance go? Was it all an act? You're so arrogant despite your cowardice. You're really ridiculous." Xian Qinzi sneered. "I don't dare. Since you want to go to the arena of life and death, I'll let you live a little longer." "Xian Qinzi, why did you agree to his request?" Hong Qitian's face was a little ugly. In fact, Xian Qinzi's status was not lower than Hong Qitian's. Because of his mother, his talent, and his age, he had an advantage. Xian Qinzi's status was actually higher than Hong Qitian's. Of course, Xian Qinzi knew what Hong Qitian was worried about. However, Xian Qinzi was not worried at all. Xian Qinzi looked at Hong Qitian and said, "Do you think that I'm not his match?" Hong Qitian said, "Of course not. I'm just worried that this kid has some tricks up his sleeve." Xian Qinzi continued, "In the face of absolute power, no amount of schemes or tricks will be effective." As soon as he finished speaking, Xian Qinzi soared into the sky and quickly flew in the direction of the arena of life and death. Lin Feng could not help but sneer. He also soared into the sky and rushed in the direction of the arena of life and death. Hurry up and go to the arena of life and death. A peerless battle is about to break out. The surrounding cultivators were in an uproar. They all flew in the direction of the arena of life and death. The news spread very quickly. A mysterious young human cultivator broke into the Fujian Grotto's base alone and killed many experts. He's about to have a life and death battle with Xian Qinzi in the arena of life and death. This news was indeed very explosive. Therefore, a large number of cultivators flew in the direction of the arena of life and death. The Red World Fairy and Qining Tian are going to fight in the arena of life and death. They haven't started fighting yet, but the arena of life and death has already welcomed a peerless battle. Xianwen City has been in a lot of trouble recently. I wonder who's going to challenge Xian Qinzi. Xian Qinzi is not a simple person. His cultivation base is extremely heaven-defying. Let's go. We'll know when we reach the arena of life and death. Many people were discussing when a large number of cultivators arrived at the arena of life and death. They saw it floating in the air. The restrictive spells around it had already been activated. 2 cultivators were standing in the arena of life and death. Many people knew Xian Qinzi. However, there were too few people who knew Lin Feng. That fellow doesn't look familiar. Who is he? Some people were puzzled. I don't know him. It's my first time seeing him. He's too young. So young? How can he be a match for Xian Qinzi? Some people couldn't help but wonder. At that moment, the news that Lin Feng had extorted more than 30 billion high-grade immortal stones from 14 top groups was exposed. When the news spread, many people were shocked. It's actually that ruthless person. Many people couldn't help but mutter. Among the crowd, there were naturally cultivators from 14 top groups. Those cultivators looked at Lin Feng. They were both afraid and hateful. They prayed Xian Qinzi could kill Lin Feng. Origin returning technique. Without wasting any time, Xian Qinzi directly used a powerful divine ability. His hands continuously formed seals. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. He also started to use his divine ability to deal with Xian Qinzi. However, at that moment, another Xian Qinzi appeared behind Lin Feng. That Xian Qinzi's lips curled into a sinister smile. He used his palm as a blade and directly slashed at Lin Feng's neck. It seemed like he wanted to cut off Lin Feng's head. Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 54:31. Xian Qinzi's primordial convergence godly technique was an extremely strange divine ability that was very confusing. His true body stood in the distance to confuse the opponent, while his clone silently appeared behind the opponent. Then, he launched a sure-kill attack on the opponent. Many people had yet to react to what was going on. They had already been killed. Xian Qinzi's spirit returning technique was used to perfection by him. Now, Xian Qinzi once again used this peerless ability. He wanted to take advantage of the fact that Lin Feng couldn't react and kill him. "Be careful!" Xianyuan Ruhan exclaimed. "It can't be. It just started, and it's going to end." Many cultivators who were watching the show couldn't help but mutter. Among those cultivators who were watching the show, there was no lack of experts. Now, seeing the scene in the life and death arena, they really couldn't have too much confidence in Lin Feng. The corner of Xian Qinzi's mouth curled into a sinister arc. In his opinion, Lin Feng would definitely die. However, when Xian Qinzi's clone swept out with that terrifying attack, Lin Feng's body, it crumbled. An afterimage. It was actually an afterimage. It wasn't the real Lin Feng. Shua. At this moment, Lin Feng appeared in front of Xian Qinzi. Lin Feng's Tao of the Void and Tao of Space were extremely tyrannical. Xian Qinzi's actions couldn't be hidden from Lin Feng. Therefore, Xian Qinzi's true body attracted Lin Feng's attention, and then used his clone to deal with Lin Feng was completely ineffective. Lin Feng beat him at his own game and used the Great Phantom technique to condense an illusory figure. That illusory figure. It was almost exactly the same as Lin Feng's true body. The 3,000 Great Tao was still quite terrifying. Therefore, Xian Qinzi didn't notice anything unusual about that illusory figure. Many people didn't notice anything unusual about that illusory figure. At this moment, Lin Feng used his teleportation technique. He instantly appeared in front of Xian Qinzi, 6 times the strength of the Dracophant arm. It erupted in an instant. That violent power seemed to be able to destroy everything. Lin Feng punched at Xian Qinzi. Xian Qinzi's expression changed slightly, because at such a close distance, he didn't have time to use his divine ability. He could only use his own physical body. With Lin Feng, force met force with force. But soon Xian Qinzi sneered, because Lin Feng was a human cultivator. Human cultivators. His physical body was weak. This was something publicly acknowledged in the world of cultivators. Even though the race that Xian Qinzi came from couldn't be considered as a race with an especially heaven-defying physical body, there was absolutely no issue for them to crush the physical body of a human. Xian Qinzi threw a punch at Lin Feng. Bang! The two sides collided fiercely. Lin Feng didn't move an inch, but Xian Qinzi was sent flying. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Xian Qinzi was sent flying by Lin Feng, his arm broken. Xian Qinzi is injured. Many people couldn't help but exclaim. This was obviously something that no one had expected. Xian Qinzi was so strong. The battle had just begun. Xian Qinzi was actually injured. This situation, it was really surprising. That guy is a human. The physical body of a human is weak. Why is his physical body so strong? Some cultivators were puzzled. I'm not sure, but that guy's physical body is indeed strong. He directly crushed Xian Qinzi. I wonder how Xian Qinzi will deal with him next. Then, another cultivator said, if he could use the simplest method to get rid of Xian Qinzi, Lin Feng definitely wouldn't use such a troublesome method to get rid of Xian Qinzi. For Lin Feng, the simplest method was to use the huge advantage of his physical body to get rid of Xian Qinzi. Lin Feng didn't just use the arm of the dragon elephant, the body of the dragon elephant. It was also used by Lin Feng, the arm of the dragon elephant, and the body of the dragon elephant. Lin Feng's combat strength rose to the peak level in an extremely short period of time. It was really too strong. His strength had more than doubled compared to before, and Lin Feng's speed was so fast. Although Xian Qinzi wanted to get rid of Lin Feng, but Lin Feng didn't give Xian Qinzi a chance at all. Lin Feng burst out with an invincible attack. The second punch came instantly. Xian Qinzi put his hands in front of him to block Lin Feng's terrifying attack. Bang! Lin Feng's punch landed on Xian Qinzi's arm. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones cracking was heard again. Xian Qinzi's arms were broken. Xian Qinzi, he had suffered an unprecedented amount of damage. Both arms are broken. Xian Qinzi is being crushed. I'm afraid Xian Qinzi is dead for sure. Someone said, yeah, a physical battle is on a completely different level. Moreover, Xian Qinzi is completely locked down and can't get rid of him at all. So, this battle bodes ill for Xian Qinzi. Another cultivator said, if Xian Qinzi finds a way to get rid of that human cultivator and then uses his sacred art to deal with him, there might be a chance to turn the tables. Another cultivator said, but everyone knew. Now, Xian Qinzi couldn't get rid of Lin Feng. Lin Feng rushed forward. Punch after punch, he attacked Xian Qinzi. Xian Qinzi was mad with hatred. His eyes had turned blood red. When had he ever been suppressed to such an extent by someone before? This made him feel extremely sullen. But now that he couldn't make any counterattack, this made Xian Qinzi extremely angry. Lin Feng, you're too strong. Hurry up and kill that bastard. Xianyuan Ruhan, who was watching the battle below the arena, shouted excitedly. Ah! Xian Qinzi roared angrily, wanting to fight back. But before he could use his counterattack, Lin Feng interrupted him. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't give Xian Qinzi any chance. Xian Qinzi, it's useless. Prepare to die. Lin Feng sneered. He once again attacked Xian Qinzi. Why? Why? You're obviously a human. Why is your physical body so strong? No matter what kind of physical body it is, it's far from being as strong as yours. How can a human cultivator have such a strong physical body? Xian Qinzi roared angrily. To be crushed to such a state, Xian Qinzi was really unwilling. Many people were listening attentively because they were also very curious. Why? Lin Feng's physical body was actually so strong. Lin Feng sneered and said, who said that a human's physical body must be weak? As long as they can endure hardship, any cultivator of any race can train their physical body to be very strong. Many people smiled bitterly. Lin Feng's words. It was equivalent to not saying anything. Lin Feng continuously punched out 3 times. Xian Qinzi could only block the first 2 punches of Lin Feng. Lin Feng's third punch. Xian Qinzi couldn't block it. Bang! Along with a loud noise was heard. His physical body directly exploded. On the spot, his body and soul were destroyed. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 5432. Previously, Those who used the QQ Reading Center on their phones were unable to search for Old Mantu's new book, Devouring the Heavens. But now they could search for it. Everyone search for it. At a bookshelf. It was very important for new books. Old Mantu thanked everyone. Archaic dragonesque elephant art about the new book. Please wait for a moment after the content has been updated. Please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 54:33. Xian Chenzi is dead. I really didn't expect Xian Chenzi to die just like that. He's a genius of a generation. He's so powerful, but he was killed so easily. It's unbelievable. It looks easy, but it's actually not easy. That's because that young master's physical body is too strong. Otherwise, how could he crush Xian Chenzi? Many people started to discuss. Indeed, in this battle, it was truly shocking and moving. However, Xian Chenzi's death, what was done. It could not be changed. Lin Feng, you're so strong. Lin Feng, I like you. Xianyuan Ruhan jumped and jumped. Although this girl was sometimes very arrogant and domineering. However, many times, she also looked quite innocent. She was really happy for Lin Feng. At this moment, Lin Feng, standing on the arena, but frowning, because Lin Feng felt that something was wrong. Xian Chenzi, would he really die so easily? Suddenly, Lin Feng realized his blood was flowing at an unprecedented speed. The ability of sudden inspiration was activated. Shua, Lin Feng did not dare to hesitate and quickly used the heaven-mending technique. He borrowed another chance from the heavens. Lin Feng disappeared from his original spot. The moment Lin Feng disappeared, a cold light streaked across the sky. That cold light flew past the place where Lin Feng was previously. Its power was too strong. The void was almost shattered. If not for Lin Feng's fast reaction, just now, he might have died without a burial ground. The cold light did not hit Lin Feng and turned into Xian Chenzi's appearance. Lin Feng reappeared. He looked at Xian Chenzi indifferently. Lin Feng already knew Xian Chenzi would not die so easily. From the looks of it, Lin Feng had guessed correctly. Xian Chenzi is not dead. As expected, I knew that Xian Chenzi would not die. Xian Chenzi's body exploded. How could he still be revived? Could it be that Xian Chenzi has the Phoenix bloodline? The spectating cultivators were in an uproar. His body exploded, but he could be revived. It was indeed unbelievable. Even Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Some powerful clans, they did have similar abilities. For example, the Undying clan and the Phoenix clan. Perhaps there were some clans that Lin Feng did not know. Do you have the Phoenix's bloodline? Lin Feng. Yes, Chenzi said with a gloomy S. Phoenix Nirvana makes me immortal and indestructible. Chenzi continued, although he was TT, he has previously Chenzi, est, ts, st, as this was something that Xian Chenzi could not accept. Chenz, he was an extremely prideful person. The current Xian Chenzi, he hated Lin Feng so much that he gnashed his teeth. Lin Feng said sarcastically, "Immortal? What a joke. Phoenix's Nirvana is powerful, but the success rate isn't high, right? Moreover, you're not a real Undying Phoenix because the Undying Phoenixes with the purest bloodline are all women, not men. You're lucky to be able to activate the Phoenix's bloodline once, but you're here bragging that you're immortal. What a joke." After hearing Lin Feng's sarcastic words, Xian Chenzi looked at Lin Feng indifferently and said, "Kid, don't be so smug. Isn't your body just a little stronger? Now, the distance between you and me has increased. I'll use my divine ability to make you unable to reincarnate forever. As soon as he finished speaking, Xian Chunzi began to prepare his divine ability. He used a powerful divine ability called the Flying Phoenix Claw. Then, a claw materialized in the void. It was a phoenix claw. The phoenix claw contained an extremely terrifying aura. That phoenix's claws were moving towards Lin Feng at full speed. It grabbed lightly. It seemed to be able to shatter the void. Facing the attack of the phoenix claw, Lin Feng's face. He couldn't help but reveal a sneer. He threw a punch at the phoenix claw. Bang! The sound of a violent collision was heard. The phoenix claw. It was Lin Feng. It was shattered with a punch. Phoenix true ancestor. Xian Chunzi sneered. He used a new theurgy. Behind him, a gigantic fire phoenix appeared in the air. The fire phoenix let out a loud cry. Then, it quickly pounced towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng transformed into a yin-yang diagram. It swept towards the fire phoenix. However, it was sent flying by the fire phoenix. The fire phoenix had an immortal body. It was hard to erase. Lin Feng was beaten back to his original form by the fire phoenix. His body couldn't help but fly backwards. What a powerful technique! Many people couldn't help but exclaim. Xian Chunzi was indeed worthy of being a top genius. He was actually so tyrannical. A battle of divine abilities. Now he was slightly better. Is Xian Chunzi's mother an expert of the Phoenix clan? Someone asked. No, it should be his father. His father is very mysterious. Perhaps he is a top expert of the Phoenix clan, but who his father is unknown. Someone said. At this moment, the fire phoenix once again charged towards Lin Feng. Sharp claws. It fiercely clawed at Lin Feng. That claw, it was very terrifying. It was as if it could easily shatter the void. Facing the fire phoenix's attack, Lin Feng used another absolute art. A terrifying fluctuation surged out from Lin Feng's body. Then, a true dragon flew out. True Dragon 9 styles, evolving into a true dragon. In fact, Lin Feng had only obtained the first 5 styles. However, after successfully cultivating the first 5 styles, the last 4 styles were automatically evolved, and so they formed an extremely complete True Dragon 9 styles. The True Dragon roared. The dragon's might spread for 100,000 miles. The True Dragon and the Fire Phoenix fought. In the end, both sides were annihilated. Primal Chaos, Heavenly God technique. Xian Chunzi's voice was indifferent as he continued to use a new divine ability. After the Primal Chaos, Heavenly God technique was used, a Primal Chaos, Heavenly God appeared. That Primal Chaos, Heavenly God was at least 100 meters tall. It was like an ancient god that was born from the primal chaos. Its body exuded an extremely terrifying aura. After the primal chaos, Heavenly God appeared. A fist blasted towards Lin Feng. Break! Lin Feng shouted coldly and swept his fist towards the primal chaos, Heavenly God. However, the primal chaos, Heavenly God's power was clearly beyond imagination. After colliding with the primal chaos, Heavenly God, Lin Feng was actually sent flying by the primal chaos, Heavenly God. Primal chaos God, splitting wave. The primal chaos, Heavenly God suddenly roared. A special kind of wave condensed in the void. That special wave ruthlessly blasted Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng didn't even have time to stabilize his body before he was blown away again by that special ripple. Genius 1 second, remember this site address. Mobile version, reading website. Chapter 5434. This guy's divine ability was really powerful. It made Lin Feng suffer a small loss. Lin Feng's expression became a little ugly. Very good. This is more interesting. Lin Feng said with an indifferent expression. He stepped forward in the void. Lin Feng used the imperial scripture. This was a very terrifying divine ability. When the Emperor's Sutra was unleashed, Qin Wentian's eyes lit up. The 9 saint emperors appeared. Every saint emperor was the ancestor of the human race. They were the human emperors of the 3 emperors. The human emperor descends, the gods kneel down. A low voice resounded between heaven and earth. Brilliant heavenly might, vast and mighty. The aura was extremely terrifying. It was creepy, feeling the pressure of the human emperor. Many people couldn't help but kneel on the ground. They knelt down to the 9 human emperors. Actually, the 9 human emperors of the human race were different from the other titled gods. For example, the evil god, a titled god. The first evil god was an extremely terrifying existence. But starting from the second evil god, the strength of these evil gods began to decline significantly. Basically, they were getting worse with each generation. In fact, it wasn't just the titled gods like the evil god. There were also many titled gods. For example, the fire god, the evil ancestor, and other titled gods were all like this. In the history of the titled gods' inheritance, it was rare for the 9 generations of titled gods to have a balanced strength, but the 9 human emperors of the human race's inheritance, their strength was more balanced. The first human emperor was rumored to be Fuxi. His strength was strong. Naturally, there was nothing to say, and the human emperors behind him, they were equally powerful. They could compete with Fuxi. This was the extraordinary part of the 9 human emperors. It was reflected in the divine ability. The imperial scripture summoned the 9 human emperors. 9 human emperors, shadows. They were definitely the kind of existence that could destroy the world. After the 9 human emperors' voices fell, an invisible force. He instantly blasted out. Bang! It was an invisible force. It viciously slammed into the heavenly chaos god's body. That heavenly god of primal chaos was actually extremely powerful. But so what? Although the heavenly god of primal chaos was extremely powerful, he was still no match for the 9 human emperors. There was still a long way to go. The heavenly primal chaos god was unable to withstand the power of the 9 human emperors. Thus, the heavenly primal chaos god's body directly shattered. The 9 Renhuangs looked coldly at Xian Chenzi. Human Tao flourishing. The 9 Renhuangs spoke at the same time. The power of Renhuang was condensed. Then he charged straight at Xian Chenzi. Xian Chenzi formed hand seals with both hands. A huge energy shield was instantly formed. The energy shield protected Xian Chenzi. Xian Chenzi wanted to use the energy shield to block the attacks of the 9 human sovereigns. However, Xian Chenzi had obviously underestimated just how powerful the attacks of the 9 human emperors were. When the attacks of the 9 human emperors landed on the energy shield, the energy barrier was instantly shattered. Subsequently, the attacks of the 9 Renhuangs landed on Xian Chenzi. Xian Chenzi was sent flying. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this scene, many people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Although Xian Chenzi had been crushed by Lin Feng's physical body previously, he had almost died. However, in everyone's opinion, if it was a battle of magical powers, Xian Chenzi would definitely be able to gain an advantage. After all, Xian Chenzi's realm was there for all to see. Although Lin Feng was very heaven-defying compared to Xian Chenzi's realm, there was still a big gap. This was where Xian Chenzi's advantage lay. But in fact, Xian Chenzi had indeed gained a certain advantage just now. But in the blink of an eye, All the advantages were gone. I knew that Lin Feng was extremely strong, said Lin Feng. Xianyuan Ruhan said. Tao Tai looked at the chattering Xianyuan Ruhan and felt a little helpless. They were just watching the battle. Was there a need to make such a fuss? The attacks of the 9 human emperors didn't end there. The 9 human emperors continued to attack Xian Chenzi. One attack after another. Xian Chenzi was forced into a very sorry state. Phoenix Shield. Xian Chenzi shouted coldly and took out a shield. He held the shield in his hand. When the attacks of the 9 human sovereigns came crashing down, they were all blocked by Xian Chenzi's shield. Xian Chenzi's shield was extraordinary. It had an extremely strong defense. Kid, I want your life. Xian Chenzi's cold voice sounded. The current Xian Chenzi. He was quite annoyed, because he originally thought that when he used his magical powers to attack Lin Feng, he would completely suppress Lin Feng. But the reality was not like that. This made Xian Chenzi extremely depressed. Xian Chenzi once again activated his magical powers. 8 desolates and 6 directions. Only I am supreme. Xian Chenzi attacked. This was a peerless and domineering magical power. 8 desolates and 6 directions actually referred to this endless world. Only I am supreme. It meant that between heaven and earth, he was supreme. Xian Chenzi used the power of the Phoenix Shield to block the attacks of the 9 human emperors. Then, he quickly charged towards Lin Feng. His 8 desolates and 6 directions. The attacks of the Only I Am Supreme technique bombarded the bodies of the 9 human emperors. The 9 human emperors were all shaken. What a powerful magical power. Lin Feng could not help but frown. This kind of battle was actually a little unfair, because the attacks of the 9 human emperors would be neutralized by the Phoenix Shield. But the 9 human emperors had to resist Xian Chenzi's attacks head-on. After all, the 9 human emperors were only manifestations of magical powers. As time passed, their power was constantly weakening. Xian Chenzi continuously swept out 9 attacks. Finally, the 9 human emperors summoned by Lin Feng were shattered. Xian Chenzi charged in front of Lin Feng and swept a fist towards Lin Feng. Bang! Accompanied by the violent sound of collision, Lin Feng was sent flying by Xian Chenzi. Door of Eternal Life. Lin Feng's expression was cold as he condensed a new attack. The Door of Eternal Life descended from the sky. It suppressed Xian Chenzi, but Xian Chenzi's Phoenix Shield was too extraordinary. It actually blocked the attack of the Door of Eternal Life. Then Xian Chenzi used the 8 desolates and 6 directions, the Only I Am Supreme technique. It broke Lin Feng's Door of Eternal Life. Lin Feng could not help but frown slightly. Xian Chenzi's Phoenix Shield seemed to be somewhat unbreakable. It was really a powerful treasure. This treasure made Lin Feng a little tempted. Lin Feng continued to use a new attack, the Gate of Karma and the Plate of Samsara. Lin Feng summoned the Gate of Karma and the Plate of Samsara. The attacks released by the Gate of Karma and the Plate of Samsara blasted towards Xian Chenzi. Xian Chenzi sneered and still used his Phoenix Shield to block. The Gate of Karma and the Plate of Samsara were once again neutralized by Xian Chenzi. Your defensive magic treasure is actually so powerful. Lin Feng's expression was a little unsightly. Xian Chenzi sneered and said, "My Phoenix Shield was refined from a Phoenix immortal crystal. No attack can break my Phoenix Shield. With this treasure, I can even compete with some saints. So, don't waste your time. Today, you're dead. I'll slaughter you like a dog." As soon as he finished speaking, Xian Chenzi increased his speed and quickly charged towards Lin Feng. Genius 1, second, remember this site address. Mobile version, reading website.